shoot, wrong way. See that in the background? Oh, yeah.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, that is my Frankfurt blanket.
He's a poser.
You shut
You
your
know
mouth.
what? You know how I know you're real? Because you called it Columbia blue. You didn't call it like Carolina blue.
We don't use that C word in the presence of Ethan and I. If you understand, we're Duke fans, so
his hat says it all.
Yeah.
I should have paid more attention. I got to pay attention to the details.
It's okay.
It's all in the details. All right, so we got 2 people on. So
we did
have another minute.
I should probably share it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna try to do that, but it probably helps to do that first.
Okay. Yes. All right. Privacy, public. So you should now see it, Danielle, to where you can just share it from my page or.
There we go. That's so weird.
I shared mine.
All right. All right. Well, for the 5 people that are on now, everybody, good evening once again. It is your host of the Open Fields podcast. It's me. It's Ryan. Along with Ethan. What's going on,
Yeah,
Ethan?
I'm here too. Oh, not a whole lot, man. Just hanging in there.
Here, man.
I am. And just got done bowling in time to come for the podcast here. So.
Awesome. Well, how was your week? How was things? How was your 4th of July?
Pretty good. Crab legs were good. For my dad's birthday, and we were just hanging in there, doing what we can do.
So, where was my invite?
You don't got an answer for that.
That's all you got.
Don't got an answer for that.
I see how it is. Thanks a lot, jerk.
Yep.
Anyway, all right, guys. Well, as you saw on Facebook, we have a very special guest today. Figured I'd move on since, I'm very hurt that I didn't get invited for crab legs to Ethan's dad's birthday. But, I digress. So I guess I'll have to move on. But anyway, we have a great guest for you guys today. We have author, we have marketing consultant, we have mom, we have, I guess, jack of all trades, Miss Danielle Hours. Miss Danielle?
All the things. I also didn't get an invite to Ethan's dad's.
See, he's a jerk about it.
I guess mine got lost in the mail.
Yes.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. Just let him have it. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, Miss Danielle, how are you, madam? It's very nice to meet you.
Good. This is so weird. I can see my face in like 5 different places, and yeah.
Well, if you're a narcissist, it's all good stuff,
My therapist will be so happy that I'm not thrilled about it.
Speak of the devil, look at little man. You say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. All right, go upstairs and no jumping on the bed. That's the rule. I don't know if everybody knows that, but my rule for Camden, whenever we're doing the podcast, is I'm always downstairs and no jumping on the bed. And that little turd will test my patience very quickly because that's what he likes to do, is jump on the bed. Anyway, so back to Miss Danielle. So, Miss Danielle, thank you again for joining us. Glad you're able to take time out of your schedule. I'm sure it's busy. So basically, like I had mentioned before we started, just kind of want to get an idea of who Miss Danielle Hours is, what led you to kind of writing your book. And I'm assuming, is Miss Anna your mom?
She is. I told you she's going to start with the question.
Okay, and that's fine. Hi, Miss Anna.
Hi, Mom.
Hello. She's a hi, little man. So that was my little guy, Camden. So anyway, just like I said, kind of get an idea of who you are. Obviously being from this area, it's a big thing for what we try to do is try to focus and get to know a little bit about the people from the area, from Mineral County, and just the things that they've done, especially, like writing your own book, which is awesome.
Thank you.
I tell you what, like I said before, we'll take for everybody that's watching right now. I'll mention it later on as well. If you have any questions, any comments, obviously it looks like Danielle's mom's going to take up a lot of the comment section. And feel free, Miss Anna, that's fine. You just keep them coming along. Maybe it'll like trend and, get people to do stuff. So, just if you want to go ahead, Miss Danielle, tell us a little bit about yourself. Obviously being from the area, talk about growing up here and, what you're doing now.
Yeah. So, hi, Mom. This is why people thank their moms when they win Oscars, right? Because moms are our biggest cheerleaders. So I didn't actually, don't hate me, I didn't actually grow up here. My dad was in the Army, so we moved around a lot. I did go to Frankfort High School and graduate from Frankfort High School, but I live in Grant County now, so it's still close to you guys. So after I had my daughter, I came back, and it's really interesting because my parents are both from the area, so I'm related to like everybody that I meet, and everybody like knows who I am, but I'm terrible with names anyway, but I just don't, I don't know them, right? Like they know me, but yeah, it's really been an interesting kind of journey. I think I told you, Ryan, but like when I was small, the only thing I was ever, hi, the only thing I was ever good at was writing. Like my mom would, I'm a triplet. I don't know if you know that. You can interrupt me.
Yeah, there was a secret question I was going to ask later, without having talked to you about it earlier, but we'll get there. But go on. I'm sorry.
So I'm a triplet. And so
thanks for ruining it, but whatever.
Sorry. And this is live. We can't go back.
Yep. No, it's like no, post-production.
So my brother and sister, my mom would send us outside, and I remember I would take this like little blanket, and she'd go, you have to go outside. You can't be inside. So I'd take a little blanket and I'd sit on it, and I would just pretend to write letters to I don't know who, just like pretend to write stuff and put them in little envelopes. And so one day I was talking to my daughter, I think she was like 4. And I also like to write songs and write lyrics. And so all of her like lullabies that I sing to her at nighttime, most of them I've written, and most of them are silly, or I like change the words, to a song that already exists. And so she walked up to the bookshelf one day and she was like, Mommy, which one of these did you make? Like to her books. And I said, oh, baby, I didn't make a book. And she said, but I thought you wanted to make books. I thought that's what you wanted when you were little. And I said, well, it was. And she goes, well, why didn't you? Like she couldn't understand if that's what I wanted to do. Hey, bud.
Sorry, he wanted chips.
Oh, that's okay. I don't blame you.
Said,
I always
can I have Lay's? Like, buddy, let's go. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. But so basically, she didn't understand why if I tell her she can do anything that she wants, that she, if she works hard and she can be anything she wants to be, then why I didn't do that. And I don't know if you've ever had your kid put you in your place like that, but there's not really like a way to go. There's no response to that, right? So the very next day I started, and I had this little series in my head, but I started with a unicorn because my daughter is obsessed with unicorns and everything rainbow and unicorns. So yeah, that's how it started.
Gotcha. So let's kind of go back a little bit. So you say you were a self-proclaimed Army brat.
Yes. So my dad was in the Army. So that term, for anyone who's not familiar, it means like the child of someone who's in the Army. And so we moved a lot, especially when I was smaller. And so the longest amount of time I ever lived anywhere was in college, like up to my adult life was in college. And then now here I am in Petersburg, and I can't leave. So it gets you that the small town feeling and the family being there and it gets to you. It's a good place to raise a child.
And I'll agree with that. I mean, Ethan, I really think you can agree as well. I mean, you and your family have been in the area, whether it be out in Short Gap or Green Spring or wherever it may be, and it's just in the area. I mean, it really is. I mean, obviously there are some downfalls to this area. I mean, I could probably name a couple, especially having a child with a special need. West Virginia, especially, is just it's not one of those. It's one of the worst states in the country for kids with special needs, especially autism. So, but the sense of community in this area is, I mean, it is amazing. I will give Fort Ashby, Short Gap, Ridgely, I will give them all the credit in the world for like that. Romney included, over that way in Hampshire County. But that is one thing I will definitely say I'm impressed with this area and the small town feel is, the sense of community and just how everybody is, yes, like you said, related to a lot of people. I'm a Fields. I'm related to Fields. I'm related to Kessner's. I'm related to, I'm sure, a Davis or a Smith or whatever. I'm related to like 90% of Hampshire County. So, yeah. And Ethan's the same, like with his family. And it was strangely hard to find a date in high school because I didn't, I didn't want to like date a cousin, which was weird. But, anyway, I digress.
Yeah. We might be related because my grandma's a Kessner, so you never know.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
So like you said, you grew up an Army brat, you moved a lot, and I don't want to keep calling you a brat because I don't know you that well to call you that.
It's not inaccurate.
But it's a phrase. So, but like traveling around a lot, what did you kind of gather as obviously being, a child into your adolescent years, like moving around a lot, like what kind of impact did that have on you? And did you take anything from those times and kind of bring it into this, like this, what you do now is writing, and whether it be the book or songs or things like that?
Yeah. So at the time, I didn't know that it was a strange way to grow up. I didn't know that having a brother and a sister the same age as you was a weird thing. I didn't know that like not everybody moved once a year. I remember an experience in high school when my best friend's dad was going away on a work trip and he was going to be gone for like 2 weeks and her mom was crying. And I was like, it's 2 weeks, right? Because my dad's gone a lot, right? For months at a time. And so that's kind of when I started to realize, oh, my life is a little bit different, right, than other people's. But I think one cool thing that now that I'm older and I can look back and see is that, one, you learn how to not reinvent yourself, but, as you grow up, like, if you live in the same town with the same people and you make mistakes or you do things and you're like, oh man, I really wish I would have done that differently. Then when you move, you get to do it differently, right? You get to like start over. And so kind of the art of accepting, like that you can, understanding that you can change things about yourself or you can, growing, I guess, was a little bit easier, right? Because you're not like it's kind of like repotting a flower, I guess, right? Like you can take it out of and repot it and it grows differently in a different environment. So I think looking back, that's one thing I'm really grateful for. I'm also obviously, I think you can tell, not really nervous talking to people. And I feel like if I had been moving so often would have been really difficult making friends and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and like we had mentioned, I talked to you yesterday about myself growing up. For those who don't know, I moved around several times growing up as well. I have the family here in this area, and we've always been here. But I've lived in all over basically West Virginia. I've lived in White Sulphur Springs. I've lived in Bridgeport. I've lived in Clarksburg. I've moved back. I lived in Morgantown a huge chunk of my life for college. And I say for college, but I was in and out of college because I really enjoyed college, maybe a little too much. But that's a story for another time where maybe parents aren't involved.
We're not talking about a children's book.
Exactly. Yeah. That's like a subscription.
Full of important kids. Like,
yeah,
stay in school.
That's subscription-based conversation right there. But yeah, like growing up, I never really thought I had to, for lack of a better, like reinvent myself with every move that I did. Because I was, like you said, like I'm not nervous talking to people necessarily. I mean, we do a podcast every week, for goodness sakes. So, I know I understand where you're coming from with moving around a lot, maybe not as much because, in the Army, you can move at a moment's notice.
Mhm.
But like I said, like what that is kind of awesome though, that you are able to take bits and pieces and kind of, like I said, you had mentioned about like replant or repotting a plant, and that's an excellent kind of, I guess, way to look at it. So, getting into like your, adolescent adult years, and now you've kind of settled. You said you went to West Liberty College, West Liberty University, I believe it is now, right?
Yeah, so this will show my age. When I got to West Liberty, it was not a university. It was a state college. So I had the really unique opportunity to be there during the transition from state college to university. And I was like the quintessential broke college student. So I actually lived on campus in the summers and worked as an RA. On campus. And so I would live in like a tiny little dorm room, and some of the buildings didn't have air conditioning, and I would be the only person in the whole building. And just, I would move, like if there was a camp that week, I'd have to pack all my stuff up and move to another building. And, but so that's how I kind of, I took summer classes and kind of supported myself in that way, working as an RA. And so I got to be on staff there when we became a university. So that was really neat. And that's another one of those things that I didn't appreciate at the time, right? Like when you're in it, especially when you're like 20 years old, and, I was living 4 hours from my family or whatever it was, and I didn't know anybody really at the time. And so it was just a really interesting experience for me and a unique opportunity. So I got my undergrad there in psychology while I worked as an RA, and I made like as any college student does, I made friends who are still my friends now. I think we don't know it when it's happening, right? Like I don't know how long you've known Ethan, but I can't imagine that maybe like when you met, you didn't go, he's going to be my friend for life, right? And then you look back in however many years and you're still friends. And so West Liberty was a really, for me, if I had to like look at my life and go, this was really important, this was really important, this was really impactful, West Lib would definitely. So shout out to West Lib. If anybody's, I don't even know how many people are watching, but
actually it says 9 as of right now. So, but yeah, guys. So we have author of If I Were a Unicorn, Miss Danielle Hours here, and we're just kind of getting an insight to how she was growing up and talking about college. And we're gonna get to the book here in just a few moments. But as you can see, the book is actually on the screen here. But Ethan actually went to 2 small colleges and then got his way out to Morgantown, right, E?
Yeah, so like where you like moved a bunch like leading up to college, I kind of moved a bunch after I started college. So I kind of did like the opposite thing. So like I started off at Garrett College for a year, and then I went to Outer Sombratus, and then I finally finished up at West Virginia. So I mean, and then after that, so like I went from Mineral County to Garrett County to Philippi, West Virginia, to Morgantown, back down to Clarksburg. Now I'm out here in Martinsburg. So I've kind of moved all around after college to where you did it before college.
Yeah.
But, and that's just interesting because it's like whenever you grow up in that type of like multiple environments, you can go one of 2 ways, right? You can not learn how to adjust and you have really trouble like making friends, or you learn how to adjust real quickly and you're good at making friends. And it kind of seems like you took that route, which is kind of awesome. So, yeah. And I'm sure that's kind of helped you out, like moving forward too, because you can build relationships and make connections with people very quickly.
Yeah, it's a kind of a natural thing for me. And I've been told, so I have like a big personality. And growing up, I think it was just kind of, I don't want to say a defense mechanism, right? But it was like a way you just have to be outgoing if you want to meet new people. And as an adult, oh, so that's Shannon. We lived together in college for a little while, and she has a daughter who was born the day after my daughter. So that's, yeah. Hi, Shannon. Hi, Margot. I
don't
lost
want to hide Danielle's face. Give me 1 second here. We're gonna take that back down.
Sorry. I'm trying. I mean,
I don't blame
the way that
you.
I say the way that we kind of position it to put the focus on the book, for the whole.
No, I would
podcast.
rather, I would rather you guys see the book than see my face. But let me see. I forget what I was saying.
You're talking about because I just said like how like you really picked up on like making friends and stuff like that.
Apparently, you have some big personality or something.
Yeah, you have a big personality, that type of stuff.
I don't know if you guys follow. There's a creator, like a TikTok, Instagram creator. Her name is Elise Myers, and she posted this video a while back, and it was talking about how like her whole life she was like she has a loud laugh and she has a big personality, and so she spent her whole life trying to make herself smaller to make people more comfortable, because sometimes whenever you have a big personality and you're very outgoing, it can make people uncomfortable. And so this video that she posted said that she's kind of come to the point in her life where she says, if I'm too much, then go find less, right? Like this is who I am. This is what I'm comfortable being. And if it's too much for you, instead of making myself smaller, you go find less. And the number of people that sent me that video and said like, hey, you should watch this, that was another moment in my life where I was like, okay, maybe I just need to accept that like I have a loud laugh and I have a big personality and I've learned how to be, or this is how I am, outgoing, I guess. So you're right, Ethan. I definitely went the other direction instead of being like shy. But I also think it's really interesting so you said you didn't move growing up. Like, what's that like to live in the same area? Like, see people that you've known since kindergarten. That's interesting to me.
Well, I mean, it's you kind of make relationships and like you said, like they kind of stick with you for a long time. But then again, like you said, like just as quickly or just as you said, like you don't think about, hey, like I met this person, they're going to be my friend for life. You also don't think about the other end of it, where there's a time where like this is the last time I'm going to see this person. So like it's a little bit weird, like looking back on it, because there are people that like I talk to all the time in high school that I haven't seen since high school. And at that point, like I had seen them every single day pretty much growing up. Right. So like the relationships can get kind of like deep or whatever, but then you kind of move away, and there are some people that kind of stay, other people don't. It's hard to describe because like I don't know any other way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to where like you were used to growing or to like moving around as you're growing up, like meeting new people all the time. This like that became the norm. So it's kind of I assume it's probably hard for you to explain what that's like compared to like my on the opposite end where I didn't move. Like I just kind of stayed in the same place, same school system, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. It also makes me wonder, like as you were talking, to consider when you move that often, you kind of have this like, I'm going to make friends, I'm going to have people to talk to, but you don't make soul friends, right? You don't have like, you don't get connected because you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to move in a year and it's gonna hurt and it's gonna suck and that kind of stuff. So I think maybe I wonder, I'm sure there's a study somewhere about this, but I wonder the effects of like the ability to develop lifelong friendships in kids who move a lot versus people who do see the same people every day or for years and stuff. That would be, I'm kind of a nerd, so that would be really interesting for me to like.
Yeah. So going down that path, I definitely think that I took that for granted, like looking back on it, to where you're like, I'm going to move in a year, I'm not going to see this person ever again. I took for granted, like, I'm going to see these same people every single day. I didn't even think about it, right?
Yeah.
So like you kind of had to prepare yourself later on for like, this connection is going to be broken at some point. I'm about to make new friends again.
Yeah.
And you just kind of like live with that. On my end of it was, I didn't even think about that ever happening because they're just there every single day. And I'm going to be in the same school system, same classes, like same type of stuff. So where I took that for granted, like you kind of had to think about that all the time. That's a very interesting difference.
Yeah.
Fields?
And I'm just enjoying the conversation. Like, well, I'm sitting here thinking like, I had to move at a very young age, and it wasn't, obviously I'm a child of divorce. My mom got remarried and my stepdad went to medical school. So we spent a couple of years in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, while he attended medical school, and then came back, got reacquainted with the area where I grew up in, went to school at Springfield Green Spring Elementary, which is unfortunately shutting down this year, which I did actually get to go to they had a big open house on the elementary school, which I thought was really cool. But went there a couple of years and then move again because he went to do his residency at United Hospital Center in Clarksburg. So I lived in Bridgeport, and then we moved to Clarksburg. And then once he finished up his residency and opened up his own practice, we moved back home. So, we moved around. We eventually came back to the area twice. But it's still to me, I don't know if you guys feel the same. Obviously, Ethan, like you said, moving at a later age, but I think obviously it does have an effect on you. And for me, it was never difficult to make friends because that's the type of personality I have. Now, Danielle, with you, I just having to not really, I don't know if this is true or not, but if you ever had that, I guess that feeling where you just never knew when you would move, but you would have to move literally now. That's an interesting thought and feeling to me. So, I had those feelings, but I didn't, I guess, because it always seemed to lead me back home. But to answer your question from earlier, Ethan and I actually have only known each other for maybe 10 years.
You say only 10 years. That's
yeah.
I only say 10 years, and I've known you, Danielle, for about 20 minutes. But maybe a couple of weeks. But point is Ethan and I actually, even though only we grew up in the same county, whether it be Hampshire County or Mineral County, our dads actually hung out together as kids, so never really knew each other outside of that. So, we have a group chat that we're in every day. And from those Matt and Doogie and Scott and Ken, I've known Matt, Doogie, and Scott a lot longer than I have Ethan. But you're right. It's just, you never know with that friendship. It might be 10 years. It's felt longer. He might say differently, but it is what it is, but it's just I think it's interesting how, even though we share something in common, it is kind of completely different in a way.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't know if the reality, if factually, we were always just we'd find out tomorrow that we had to move. But as a child, as a kid, it definitely felt like that. It felt there was a lot of, oh no, it's now the time. You know what I mean? And I don't know if that was the reality, but I know my poor mom, so my parents are still married. And so my mom was very young when she had us. When my mom was my age, she had 16-year-old triplets. I have one 6-year-old, and I can't. So not only to have 16-year-old triplets, but to have moved them, right? So we're talking about having to pick up your life and go all the time, but triplets, 3 of them, all the time. I can't imagine what that must have been like. And I'm sure
herding cats, probably.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Now, from what I understand, it's 2 girls and a boy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 girls and a boy. And
we'll get there how I know that, I promise.
I'm afraid to say, I don't want to ruin the surprise question. So
well, that was the surprise question. Is I was actually asked today, if you remember Mr. Ken Kogel from Frankfort High School. He was a teacher.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Mr. Kogel.
Did you see the wheels?
I saw the mouse running.
Yeah, the gear's starting to turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who is that
Yeah.
man? Anyway, so Ken asked me today. He said, Danielle. He's like, is that one of the triplets? I said, I don't know. How am I supposed to know? And he's like,
yeah.
I said, the only thing I know is she has a brother, Josh. And he sent back. He's like, oh yeah, then that's her. She's a triplet. So my question at one point at some point in this interview was going to be, so, I hear you have a secret, or, something that you didn't tell me is I hear you are a triplet. And you had mentioned that early. So
sorry.
And I was like, son of a gun. So
yeah. I didn't know it. I had no idea that it was like a strange, and we were naturally conceived. So no like treatments or anything like that. My parents just were really young, got pregnant, and had us. And so I was terrified. When I found out I was pregnant, I was like, I need you to make sure there's only one in here, because I don't know how genetics works, but I'm very small. I will not survive triplets. But I didn't know that was weird.
Little dude,
and that's another thing too, that like it's like I'm like the very opposite, because I grew up as an only child. So so like you and I are basically definitely opposite sides of the spectrum there, as to where,
speaking of devil child, 6-year-old, I have one child, and he is I love him dearly, but he drives me crazy.
I think they're supposed to. I think kids, this is what I've learned. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I think kids have the ability to push you right to the point of insanity, like right to the point that your face is gonna explode, and then they do something so sweet. And you're just like, oh, my heart, I love you so much. And then it just repeats over. And that's
it is a vicious circle. It really is.
Yeah. Like right when you think I can't handle anymore, it's like, Mommy, you're so pretty. I love you. So, something. And you're like, okay.
Once again, Ethan, good luck, buddy. That's all. You're going to have a lot of uncles, but that kid's going to have uncles. He's going to have aunts. Good luck.
Yeah.
So, well, my question was going to be on the follow-up of that, actually. So, like, with you having like 2 siblings the exact same age, I'm sure moving around a lot also could. I'm sure you guys had all your disagreements in the world. I'm sure you guys, fought all the time. But the constant in you guys' lives was each other, right? And I'm sure that kind of helped you guys out a lot. Having like, I'll like, my friends are going to be whatever that I just had here for the last year, but my brother and sister are still going to be with me all the time. So I'm sure that kind of eased the pain a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was always someone to talk to. Like, I crave alone time now, just like 5 minutes where nobody needs anything, nobody needs me. And I wonder often if that's kind of bred from never being alone as a child. But I think when you're a multiple, a triplet or a twin, one of 2 things happens, right? Like you either become best friends and you lean on each other and like you spend your time growing up going, this is my person. Or especially when you stay in small towns and, there's like 1 3rd grade class. So all 3 of you have to be in the same class and you have the same friends and you have crushes on the same boys and you're doing the same sports. I think it also could breed a lot of competition, right? So I think we definitely had that too. My sister was always very, very good at softball. She was definitely better than me at softball. So if you're watching, Tamara, I know that, right? And so I think the one good thing is that my mom really, and I can see this now, she really encouraged us to be our own people, 3 separate people. So like on our birthday, so you mentioned, Ryan, that someone said, hey, is she one of the triplets? That still happens. I'm in my late 30s and people will still go like, oh, you're one of the triplets. Like, so my mom would make us like 1 birthday cake for all 3 of us. And then she would make like a tiny cake for me and a tiny cake for my sister and a tiny cake for my brother. And that was like something that we didn't have to share. And so she really encouraged us. She didn't make us dress the same. She didn't like try to get us to all like the same thing. And so I'm really grateful for that, because I have known other sets of triplets in the past. And when they weren't raised that way, when it was like the triplets versus like Joshua, Danielle, and Tamara, in my experience, there's an inability to separate, right? Like you don't form your own identity. So then you're 35 years old just being one of the triplets, right? Like what do we like? Where do we want to go, instead of being like, oh, we're each our own person.
It's funny that you say that, because, well, sorry to cut you off, E. But like Camden's mother is actually a twin. So I get it. Like I do get it, but I don't. So, I guess you could kind of think of it as like living in a small town where you see the same people every day. You lean on those people. With twins, you share, like, a big thing with her is she hates birthdays now, I guess, because she's never had a birthday to herself. And, obviously neither have you. So, no. I completely, as you're sitting there talking about like being a triplet, like I'm sitting here thinking it's making more sense, not being a twin or a triplet or having a sibling with the same birthday. And actually our buddy Marcus does. He said, I know the feeling. Way. Marcus is a twin as well. And it took me, believe it or not, Marcus and I are related down the line. Had no idea he was a twin for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
And,
are they identical or fraternal?
I know Camden's mother is fraternal.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus, I do not know. Marcus, if you let us know, are you identical? I'm sorry. No. Camden's mother, Alicia, is actually identical. They're identical twins. But you wouldn't be able to tell now, which is weird. So, like, you can tell the difference because they and I'm going to get this to get to you with this before we get to the book, because I know we want to talk about the book. As a triplet, do you kind of see yourself, like, do you guys have your own? He is a fraternal twin, by the way. Do you guys have your own separate personalities? Or as a triplet, do you guys have you blended personalities, or are they all kind of the same?
I can't speak for everybody, but I know for us, we are very different, all three of us. We have our own, our own paths in life, our own likes and our own dislikes. My sister and I, and if she was on here, she'd tell you the same thing. We don't really have anything in common. Like when we shop for each other, I'm not joking. When we shop for each other, if I pick something up and I'm like, oh, I would never wear that, and like Tamara will love it, and she'll tell you the same thing. Yeah. And she and I look nothing alike. So if we were in the same room, you wouldn't even be like, oh, they're related, let alone like, oh, we're triplets. But so, yeah, I think for us, and maybe it does stem from, my mom really encouraging us to be our own person, our own people. But yeah, I don't know that we have an identity anymore. That's a really good question. I don't know if we look at ourselves as like the triplets. Like my brother and I will say like, he'll say one of three, like 1/3, because he was born first, and I'll say like 2/3 because I was born second. So we have
one, thing two, thing three. I got you.
Exactly. Yeah. What's funny is my dad, and this is also a true story. He wanted to name us Huey, Dewey, and Louie, like the dogs. Yeah.
That's a definite dad thing. That's a dad thing for sure.
100%. And I know that, like, because we were raised like in an army family, in a military family, we were people would say, like, when we'd go to the grocery store, my mom would be like a mama duck with her little ducks in a row, because we would just like walk in a line and like follow in behind each other. I would be really interested to talk to like other multiples and see if they struggle to kind of separate their identity from their siblings. I would imagine it would be more difficult if you were identical. Like that to me would be
that's tough.
Super strange. Yeah. To see someone, except for as a woman, when I go to like pick out my clothes, I'd be like, hey, could you try this on? Like, does this look good on you?
Ethan and I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I told him to wear, I put that shirt on before, and I was like, you know what? That would look good on you, E,
How many times do you guys show up to the podcast in the same shirt?
Actually, never.
Never.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I make a concerted effort to try to find some of the most off the wall like shirts that I have to wear.
And I think that's what makes like this fun, though, I think. And it's one of the things we do.
Well, it's your podcast. You can do whatever you want, right? You can wear whatever you want.
Yeah, like I'd spent 5 minutes trying to find a shirt, and I fell on this one. So yeah, he has the Lloyd Christmas shirt. Mine says typical house bowler. This is a shout out to Sarah Bowles. I don't know if anybody else follows bowling TikTok, but this is one of her shirts that she made.
I do.
And yeah, she sent one to me. So, anyways, I did have a question. Do you have like that like sibling telekinesis stuff that phenomena that some people have with you and your siblings?
Yeah, so my brother and I have had a couple experiences that, like, if you tell people, they look at you like you have 3 heads. But yeah, I think we kind of more had a sense to one another, you know, but as we've gotten older, we've had a couple experiences where something has happened, or I've been, you know, one of us has been like, I should really call the other one. And as crazy as it sounds, we don't ignore that, like that little thing in the back of our heads that go like, oh, have you checked on your brother today? Or have you checked on your sister today? Like, and I have had people go like, I'll say, oh, I have a bad feeling. And they're like, about what? I'm like, I don't know. I just need to call my brother. And they're like, that's not a thing that people do. But for us, yeah.
That's really cool. Because I've, you know, I mean, I've read stories. I've also seen like different things where like it'll be a set of like identical twins like across the country from each other.
Yeah.
And like they'll get like a knot, like one was 2 sisters, and like one got like a knot in their stomach or something. They're like, oh, I should check on you know, my sister, and turns out her sister was pregnant. You know what I mean? So it was one of those things. Like it's like it's hard to explain. I don't. Yeah. I mean, but it's really cool.
I don't know if there's like a scientific reason behind it, or if there's like a spiritual reason behind it, or if it's, you know, you spent so much of your life with this person, because you're like in utero together, right? Like from the moment of conception, you have these other human beings with you. So yeah, I don't know. I'm grateful for it. I mean, I think it's really cool. I don't know if you guys have seen my siblings, but my brother and I look very similar, but he's like 1.5 feet taller than me. He's like incredibly tall. If you want to get us both in the same picture, you have to kind of scoot back, or he will often pick me up. Yeah, it's really, I think there's a picture from Christmas of us talking, and I'm literally just like yeah.
Oh man, I was gonna say I'm what 6'3.5", and I tell you, 6'3.5".
You and I are pretty much the same height, Fields.
Yeah,
that's not fair. That like I'm just right at 5 feet where I can say I'm 5 feet.
Well, look at it this way. So I'm 6'3", 6'3.5", close to 6'4" on a good day. Camden's mother, yes, you're right. Camden's mother is a shade, and I mean a hair under 6 foot tall.
Oh wow!
So think about how that little guy won't be so little here very soon. He's not very little now. I mean, he comes up to about middle of my rib cage. So, and he's 6. So
does my daughter, but that's because I'm, I got you. She came home from school one day and was like very upset, and she said, "I'm the smallest person in my class, and it's all your fault." And I was like, "Yeah."
Well, my son apparently is the size of a 9-year-old. So, my friend Shandy, her son is 9, and they were walking together at the county fair a couple weeks ago, and I mean they were like head to head, like very close. So hey, what do you say we maybe get to talking to the book about the book?
We're hanging out. We're just hanging out, just talking, whatever.
Like I said, nothing was off limits. We could talk about anything and everything, but I don't want to forget about the book.
Yeah, look, I even have one.
Look at that. There you go. Hot dog. So the book that Danielle wrote is called, obviously on the screen, and she's got it in hand, If I Were a Unicorn. And so, Miss Danielle, what got you started? And I know you've told me this story, but not everybody has heard the story. Yeah. What got you started to wanting to write a book, and how did this book come about?
So I think I mentioned it earlier. It was kind of my daughter being like pretty much calling me out on not like following my dreams, right? Not doing the thing that I had told her that I wanted to do. And I couldn't like, you know, your heart as a parent, you can't really look at your child in the eye. How could I ever go like, if she starts to question herself, how could I ever be like, no, you can do it. You can, if you try hard, you can do it. And then she can look at me and be like, but you didn't, right? So the concept for this series, I wanted it to be educational. So pretend this one's not about a unicorn, because I know unicorns are pretend. Or if you ask my daughter, extinct. Yeah. But it being like a learning journey. So I had a job a couple of years ago where I traveled a lot, and my daughter and I would do what we call heart magic, which is like, I just hold my hands on my heart and I think about my daughter and I send her love, and she'll like feel it back, right? She'll receive my heart magic, or vice versa, and we'll know that the other one is thinking about us and that we're never alone or away from each other. And one day that conversation just kind of led us into this idea of having imagination magic. So like, if you could take that magic in your heart, your dreams, what would you do? What would happen? And so that's kind of where the idea of imagination magic comes in. And I guess I should explain the book. I should rewind and explain the book. So in the book, a little girl named Violet, who, if you look at the cover, looks suspiciously like my daughter. So she uses
maybe a little,
just a teeny bit, all the way down to the glasses and the outfit.
Nothing wrong with people that wear glasses. Just saying.
No. And that was, as a side note, that was a big stipulation of mine when we did the book, because if you look at it, the unicorn in the story also wears glasses, because the little girl becomes the unicorn. And so my daughter wears glasses, and that was important for me for that to be represented throughout the book. So in the book, a little girl named Violet uses her imagination magic to turn herself into a unicorn. And then she spends the day doing all of the things that she thinks a unicorn would do. And, sleeping on a fluffy cloud and eating rainbow sprinkle cotton candy ice cream and all of those fun things. But inside the book, on each page, there's a letter hidden inside, like this is a picture here. And so you can see that there's like a little letter T there. So as you read the story, you collect the letters. And then at the end of the book, you put the letters in here. And it spells out a message. And the concept of that, I know my daughter gets kind of bored, right? Like when we're reading books, she like kind of will point. And so I wanted there to be something to keep interest for the kids, but I also wanted there to be something inspiring, something to encourage kids to follow their dreams. And so because I don't think any kids are watching this, it spells out dare to dream. That's like the message at the end of the book, to kind of
there goes there. Yep, you ruined it for me. I was gonna read the book, and I was gonna go ahead and fill it in. And
you gotta give me notes next time. Like, do not remember when you said nothing is off limits.
That's fair, but it's like the don't forget to drink your Ovaltine from Christmas Story.
Yeah,
we all know what Ralphie says at the end of that. So
we do. Well, now we do. If you haven't watched A Christmas Story by now, it's been out long enough. Like, they're not spoilers anymore. They're just facts.
Fun fact, favorite Christmas movie of all time, right here, A Christmas Story.
A Christmas Story.
Sorry to cut you off, though.
No, I just got distracted going, oh, what's my favorite Christmas movie? Does Die Hard count as a Christmas movie?
No.
Yes.
It does not.
Oh, no.
You've done it now. Oh, you have done it now, madam. Oh,
yes,
let's talk about a book now.
For those who don't know, if you go back and watch one of the earlier episodes from, I think, season 2, when we first got started, Ethan and I had the conversation. What was the episode titled? I
don't know. Like, I was like hot takes or something like that.
Yeah, something. I forget
you said Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, and I will stand on that hill and fight for Die Hard on Christmas.
I gotta go with Ethan. I think here's the deal. If it's something that every year at Christmas you're gonna sit down and watch, I think that it counts as a Christmas movie.
Absolutely.
And there are two types of people in this world. There are people that are right, and then there are people that are wrong, and then pretty much me. So that's
you're wrong.
No,
So
false. Anyway,
mine's a dual purpose Christmas movie. Just to kind of like put a bookend on this one for that one. Mine's Nightmare Before Christmas. It's my favorite Halloween and favorite Christmas movie.
Okay, I can see. It's like, is it Tim Burton, right? Nightmare Before Christmas?
Yes.
Yeah. Tim Burton's like that's like stepping into a whole different world every time you watch a Tim Burton movie. But
for those people that are watching, please comment if you think that Die Hard is a Christmas movie or not a Christmas movie. I would like to see who thinks. I would like to see how many people are wrong.
Yeah, we did that. We did that episode before we had the comment section, so this should be fun.
Yes.
So anyway, go on with your wrong thinking of how it is a Christmas movie or whatever. But the book, which is also from that looks great. Okay. So real quick, Ken Kogel. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. Thank you, Mr. Kogel. It just so happened to take place at Christmas. For it to be a Christmas movie, Christmas would have to be a focus, not a setting.
The focus was a Christmas party.
It takes place at a Christmas party.
It takes place at a tower where it just happens to be a Christmas party.
No, the Christmas party just happens to be in a tower.
Yeah.
Camden's mother, Alicia, said, "I've seen videos of Bruce Willis himself saying it's not a Christmas movie." Thank you. And Alicia, you missed the conversation of twins and triplets.
He was just an actor.
Hi, Alicia. Yeah.
The focus was terrorist, not a Christmas movie.
Yeah, attacking Christmas. What are we doing here?
I'm with you, Ethan. I'm with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alicia Jackson, congratulations, Danielle. So happy for you. Hope you are doing well.
Hi. She's a fellow West Liberty alum. Hi. That's so sweet. I will say something that, about writing the book. It's really so even now, like if I were to give you the book and you were to read it in front of me, I would just shrink. Like I want to hold my breath, and I'm like watching all of your facial expressions and like, because I want people to love it. Right. But it's also like very, it's like a very vulnerable place to be, right? Where you create something and then other people get to see it. And if they don't, here's the thing, if they don't like it, I can't be like, oh, well, I only did that, like it's my story, right? Like, and I have a wonderful illustrator, and I can't draw, guys. I'm good at a lot of things. Art is not one of them. So I just like kind of say, this is where, for this book, I said I would like this to happen, and she put it together, and it's been wonderful. But yeah, so it's a very vulnerable place to be. And after the amount of support that I received, people like sending me videos of their kids reading the book, or like pictures of them reading it together, like the number of people who reached out to me to congratulate me on it, it's been really awesome. Like it's been really cool. And it also reminds me that, like we talked about, those connections that you make, like as an adult, it's okay to go 10 years without talking to someone and then popping back in and being like, hey, how's it going? Because in reality, we're all watching each other's kids grow up, right? On Facebook. Like, how many people do you watch and you like their photos? You went to high school with them. They moved away. You haven't seen them, but you feel like you know their kids, or you feel like you know their life because everything's out there, and you feel very emotionally connected to them. So it's been really cool for the response, and the people that I haven't talked to in a long time going like, hey, I read it to my daughter, or I read it to my son. And because for me, I think I did a video about this the other day, but I really love the bedtime routine. My daughter is one of those kids that like suddenly gets really thirsty at 8 o'clock, or like is like, I'm so hungry when it's time for bed. And so I've been doing story time with her since she was a baby. So the idea that there's like a little kid curling up next to their parents, like, you know, getting tucked in right now, and they're reading this book, or they're excited, or their mom goes like, hey, pick a book from the bookshelf, and they pick this one and they want to read it. I know that probably sounds really silly, but that fills me with so much joy. And so so anyone that's watching, if you have the book, if your kids have the book, I would love to know what they think. I would love the pictures. I would love, you know, anything about any interactions. Yeah, it makes me really excited to put out another one. And kind of do it all over again. I'm not. I stopped. Did you see? I was like,
well, sorry guys. I had to say something because I was like, before we started, you know, I guess the secret's out now. So obviously Danielle has written this book, and it's not necessarily a secret, but was kind of what we were going to get to. Is there is a plan for Miss Danielle to put out a second book.
Yep. So the book is written and it's being illustrated right now. So we have almost all of the sketches done for the book. So she sketches them out, and I say, yeah, I like this part. No, I don't like this part. Well, I never say, no, I don't like this, because she's fantastic at what she does. But it's always, I have a vision in my head. I'm just not skilled enough to take that vision and put it into art. But so the next one is called If I Were a Dinosaur. And so this one follows the theme of being a bit more educational. So I loved the idea of finding a fun way to teach kids about certain things. And if you think about it, when kids are in preschool and even kindergarten, they're like, what does a cat say? What does a dog say? Those early things that they're learning, it's very based in that kind of, environment, in that realm. So in the next book, the same thing will happen. Violet will use her imagination magic to turn herself into a unicorn or into a dinosaur, and she'll spend the day doing all of the things that a dinosaur would do, except this time you get to learn about dinosaurs. You get to actually learn about what they ate and what they may have looked like, and whether they walked or swam or flew and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really, really excited, because I think that I know a lot of little boys who loved this book, but I definitely think this book was maybe geared more towards little girls. And I have a nephew who was on here earlier. My mom said Caden and Ella are watching, and he loves dinosaurs. So it was kind of the natural progression to go to a dinosaur next. And so I'm excited to get the maybe little brothers or older brothers of the kids who like the book now to kind of get their own copy and find the message hidden inside and all that kind of stuff.
I definitely that one for Fields right now.
Yeah, I know, right?
Spoil that one.
I've already been.
I won't tell you. I won't ruin it.
I mean, the first one, it's like, man, it was already ruined. It's like I wanted to read it like a big boy.
I should come with just a spoiler alert warning, just my face.
Yeah, instead of author of If I Were a Unicorn, it's just be like spoiler alert. That's
I'm like, what is it? Tom Holland, the guy who plays Spider-Man, who apparently just ruins everything in the interviews. That's
I never heard that, but that's awesome.
Oh my gosh. So a lot when I'm writing, so I don't just write children's books. I've just only published children's books. And so when I'm creating characters, this is going to sound weird. I will watch interviews of celebrities or just award ceremonies or anything like that, because then you get to see people's character trait. If somebody pulls their hair behind their ear when they're nervous, or like me, and they talk with their hands, you kind of get ideas for little character traits to kind of build into those characters as you're creating somebody new. And so I will go down a rabbit hole, y'all, on YouTube of I'll start with a Spider-Man interview, and I now know how the temperature of the center of the earth, and I have no idea how I got there. But yeah, so apparently if you look it up, Tom Holland, who is the current, I think that's his name, the current Spider-Man, apparently is just so terrible in interviews to ruin movies that they now, I don't know if you guys saw I don't want to ruin it, but but something happened. Like he didn't know. He would show up on set to act out a scene and like didn't know what he was actually showing up for until the movie was finished, because he would just ruin it. Yeah.
So I actually had a 2-part question, because you had mentioned, like, I wanted to ask about how receptive the book has been so far since it's been out. And you did kind of answer that. So obviously wanted to get you to kind of talk about the next book that's coming out. But my question to you, or my 2-part question would be, which, by the way, Alicia had commented, Tom Holland is rarely alone in interviews because he always spoils it.
Someone got to smack him like.
Yeah, right.
And she said that's awesome that you're a triplet. So after we talk about the book, now that she's actually watching, I wanted to kind of fall back a little bit to the conversation about you being a triplet. You said you wanted to get the and we can have a bigger conversation about it, of course, but I wanted her to kind of give a twin aspect of it and answer those questions to show you like how the similarities are. But my question to you is what can we expect? Obviously we have if I were a unicorn, there we go. Blah. And then the next one is if I were a dinosaur. First question is how many, like, what size series will the booklets or will the books be? Like, how many do you plan on writing? And 2, do you kind of see a little bit, and if you think about it, this is symbolism, word of the day, symbolism, is maybe you growing up or how you lived your life growing up, maybe you could be a little bit of or represent that unicorn, being like, you see what I'm saying? Like, or where I'm getting at, like, unicorn is a mythical creature and is, some people believe in it and some people don't. And, you're here and you're not here. And it's like you as an army brat, you're here and you're moving, but you're not, it's like, see where I'm going with that question. Like,
yeah.
It's making sense up here, but I'm trying to make it make sense out this way. And
I'm just smiling.
I'm picking up where you're putting down. I don't know what that says about me, but I'm picking up where you're putting down.
It's like it makes me feel good. It's like to know that there are other people out there. Like I'm crazy, so maybe there are other crazy people out there too.
Yeah. So to answer your first question, I have fully written 6, I think, books. It's a process to get them illustrated because I don't illustrate, and I want to keep the same illustrator, not only like for posterity's sake and for like the visual aspect of it, but also because she's worked so well with me in the past and has kind of, I changed my mind a lot, or like I'm uncertain, and so she's really been great. And I also, there are other ideas for books that don't fall into this series, for which I'll use other illustrators. My friend Shannon, who was on here earlier, is a fantastic artist. Like God reached down and was like, you will be good at this. I mean, she's amazing. And so I'm really excited to work with her on one. But for this specific series, I think there are 6 already. And so, we will do like a mythical creatures series. So, hypothetically, like mermaids, other things that are really fun, or dragons, but maybe don't fall into the realm of real. And then we'll have things like dinosaurs and penguins and like dogs and like real animals. And in my mind, like if I could wake up every single day and this was just my job to like write stories and keep this going, I'd be set. So I will write as many books as like the world will let me write in the series, as long as people are enjoying it. And I think it's really interesting. My life has been just chaos, right? Like you move a lot, and I went to college, and then I went to grad school, and then I got another degree, and like they're basically just like the most expensive pieces of paper that I own because I'm not for what I got them for. But the experiences right along the way, like you said, growing up in every chapter of your life, I think it's really important to remember that we're writing a book like of our lives. And so all of these things, they become chapters, and they feel really big right now when we're in it. But at the end of our life, it's just going to be one chapter. It's not going to be the whole thing. And so remembering that, like, if at the end of chapter 1, you're not happy, or you don't see your book going the way that you want it to, it's okay to start something new in chapter 2, which is kind of what I did with the book, right? With If I Were a Unicorn. I was doing something that like paid the bills, and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't fulfilled like in here. And I think my daughter just saying that to me about, like, you know, why aren't you following your dreams, or why didn't you do this, was kind of the kick that I needed to be like, okay, I'm just in a chapter, and I have to stop acting like this is my whole story, if that makes sense. So I think it's not a coincidence that the concept of this book is Dare to Dream. And having that conversation with her, that this book encourages kids to go after what they want to do, and to be brave enough. Like, there's a line in the book that says, like, anything is possible if you're brave enough to dream. Because I think sometimes, and I felt this when I put the book out, like, who am I? There are how many billions of people in the world? Like, who's going to want to read something that I wrote? Who's going to, like, go to a store and order something that I wrote? It's just an idea. And I think we're so often tempted to just minimize our input in the world, instead of, like, when did we lose that? You know, like, if you ask a little kid what they want to be, they don't say, like, I don't want to be like, I don't know, something because it's sensible, right? They pick something that they want to be because it fills them with joy, and they're excited about it. And they never stop to go, like, is it possible? Could I do that? Like, is the world too big? And I think, I wish we could go back and, like, remove that part of our lives where we lost the ability to believe in ourselves, and to, like, believe and have the courage to go, you know what? I want to be different. Because I think it's fantastic. And if I'm being completely honest, I very much envy those people who, like, knew when they were 10 years old that they wanted to be a teacher, and so they became a teacher, and they're amazing, right? Like, or wanted to be a doctor, so they became a doctor. I didn't have that, like, sensible thing. I never wanted to do anything that was, like, sensible, you know? And so I'm envious of that in people. But I also wish that those of us who are made a little bit differently would not grow out of having the courage. Does that make sense? I know I'm rambling.
Absolute sense.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're actually it says 17 viewers, so that's pretty high for us. So that's awesome.
I can't see who's watching it, or I would say hi to the people that I know, but
I can't see who. I mean, I can
Yeah,
tell you
it just tells us a number.
Well, hi everybody.
I can tell you that Shannon did respond and said that, as an art person, I think it's amazing that you are using mythical creatures and things to foster a creative mind in the kids that are reading the book. It's just as important as the factual things.
Oh, thank you.
But
I actually had, like, more of like a question on like the other, like, side of writing a book. Like, you talked about, like, how, like, if we read your book, like, you would kind of, like, shrink because it's, like, a very, very vulnerable position. What's that like, putting yourself in that position, submitting it to, like, a publisher or someone like that, like, hey, here's my work, please publish this?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's very, very nerve-wracking and very just kind of like I don't know what's going on, or how I can, like, you can't control it, you know what I mean? Like, once you submit it, it's there.
And it's really important. Somebody told me one time, and this feels like common sense, but they said, like, it doesn't matter how many no's you get. You only need one yes. You only need one yes. And so it can be really daunting when people are going, like, oh, this isn't, no, this isn't what we're looking for. Or, like, and a lot of publishers will only read what you send them if you are author and illustrator, because there are a lot of, like, unless you do like a work for hire where you hire someone to illustrate and then you retain the copyrights and ownership of the illustrations, there are a lot of, it's like a tricky, like a lot, there's a lot of red tape. So going up, there are a lot of different ways to go about it. But for anyone who wants to publish, I will encourage you to like take a step. It's very easy to go, I want to do it the quick way. I would encourage you to make sure that you're knowledgeable about it, that you do your research, because like I said, there are a lot of ways to go about it. Oh, thank you.
And I don't mean to cut you off. I want to make sure that like these posts get posted so that you can see them. So it's not a way to cut you off. So I do apologize.
No, go ahead.
But I just want you to see these. So
yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad you liked it. But yeah, it is. So yes, it is. There's this thing that happens whenever you get like, if you send it out to someone, for me anyway, and I don't know. I wish I were different. I wish I could be like, that doesn't hurt my feelings that this person didn't like the book. But it does. Even though I'm at the wonderful thing about being in your 30s, in my experience, is there's this acceptance that like, not everyone is going to like you. Not everyone is going to like what you do. And that's okay. Like there is no way that you can please everybody, and getting to a point where you're happy with yourself.
I do.
Yeah.
Everybody loves me.
Well, it's not. I can't say the same, but no.
Just kidding.
I don't know how to respond to that. Ryan.
I'm loose, you know. I'm trying to make people laugh. So
yeah, you can.
Go on. I'm sorry.
You can teach me the trick later of how to get everybody to like you. But no, But so for me, there's a moment where I hold my breath and I get really sick to my stomach. Like I'm just like, because I do want people to like it. And we live in a world where you put something out on the internet and anybody can say anything they want. And it's there for you to read. And so the first time like that you put something out and people are saying unkind things, it's not fun. And you sit and you wonder like, okay, is it, maybe I am, maybe I do this, or maybe I'm not this, or it's really difficult to like let it just kind of wash over you. Yeah.
You kind of get to a point though where you kind of realize like there are some people that are just going to be negative for the sake of negativity. And they just say things just to get a response. You know what I mean? There are people that they may not even feel that way, but they're just going to say something negative about it just to get interaction.
Yeah.
We're doing a podcast, and so we get it.
It's kind of to me, it's kind of the same concept of like infamy, right? To be or like someone said to me, in the world of marketing, there are some people who believe that like all press is good press because people are talking about you. And so I think that there are some people that simply, if I say something nasty to you and you respond, you have like given me what I wanted in getting that attention. So I don't argue with people when they say like, if, and it hasn't happened often. I have had a couple. So Grant County Bank in Petersburg invited me to do a book signing. And I was like, I'm doing a book signing at a bank. Like I was telling people about it and they were like, what? And it was so successful. And I have to thank them because they did such an amazing job of getting the word out that I was going to be there, of inviting people, of, calling like teachers and being like, hey, is this something that you might like for your class? That I had to take a break in the middle of it. I got so emotional that I had to take a break and I went to my car and cried. Because I was like, I'm like, people are here. Like my hand, the first time somebody asked me to sign their book, my hand was shaking. Like I had to get out another book because you couldn't read what I had written. Like, and I don't have that fancy of a signature. But it was just, I get very emotional because it's like, I put a lot of like love into it and I want people to like it. So yeah, if I'm sending it to anybody, if I'm sending it to anyone, I get really nervous.
Well, like I feel the same way too. Like I still to this day, and obviously it might not be to the level of writing a book especially for children, or even writing a book at all. But I still get people
writing,
writing, yes, or just writing in general. Who writes? So. Wow, what a dick. Anyway, sorry.
I don't know anyone who writes.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway. So, like, I still get people of it, like I had mentioned to you before. Like, I play softball on Sundays, and every Sunday, like, I get a group of people around me, or even meeting people outside and at the store or whatever, and people are like, "Hey, Ryan, how's it going? Like, how's the podcast going?" Or they'll make a comment like, "Hey, when are you gonna let me on the podcast?" Like, I understand like how you kind of get nervous, and like you said, you would love to do this like full time, and this be just your job, which would be awesome. Like we had discussed, I would love to just sit here in front of a computer and just talk to people all day long, every day, and this be it. And so I definitely understand and do kind of have that same feeling. I'd love this to be my job. I would love to do it full time. But it still makes me nervous. But it's great that even this little podcast that Ethan and I started, it's gaining a little bit of stream. So it's like, it's awesome. And, I just sit here and say like, I feel like Ethan and I can kind of agree with you is like, yeah, like who would want to watch this little podcast from these two guys from Mineral County, and and here it is, it's only 16 people that are watching right now, but it's 16 people that we've got, maybe 3 or 4 of the first couple episodes that we watched, or so I definitely understand it, and I want to be the first so far today to say congratulations on all that you've successful, writing a book, and starting another book, actually finishing another book. And I'm really glad that you had said earlier that you make up words to songs, whether they're random words. I do that, but they're probably not kid friendly. For sure not kid friendly. And I know there are people watching this right now who can vouch for me right there, because I make up the most random lyrics to the most random songs.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I wanted to tell you too that a buddy of mine, Matt, who's watching, had said he's been working on, and so adults are actually watching this. Been working on my cookbook for years. Which, by the way, there you go, E. You need to start one. Ethan,
Ethan
Can
cooks.
you teach me? Because when I said there were things that I do really well, cooking is not on the list.
I can send you some recipes. I can get you.
I can maintain, like, my daughter's good right now because she's at that 6-year-old diet where it's like chicken noodles and spaghetti, which is really or chicken nuggets and like noodles, which is
See, I told you. I can do it. And Andy C, there's another one.
You never don't you just hate when you're singing to the radio and they change the words? Like, yeah.
It's a blessing and a curse, really. It really is.
I think there's something, and you guys have it with the podcast too, like the biggest step, like as nerve-wracking as it is to put out the thing that you make, like having the courage or the insanity maybe to be like, I could do this. I could write a book, or like I could make a podcast, and like do that first step, I think, in like accepting this is something.
Agreed, Matt. Which, by the way, he is one of those guys that will, like the college story that I was telling you, like I enjoyed college way too much. He was one of the reasons why I enjoyed college too much. But go on, I'm sorry.
Yep. No, I just think it's taking that first step. And you see people, again, we live in a world where like we have to be so careful to compare ourselves to what we see on Instagram and Facebook and things like we have to remember that we live in an edited world, right? Like especially for kids. Yes. Now, like everything that we see, it's so easy to to look at, like, for you guys to look at other people who are doing podcasts and be like, man, it happened overnight. Or, you know, for me to look at people who are writing children's books and be like, that it happened, like, it's so fast, or like they have it all together. And we have to remember that everybody starts somewhere. And even if you just take a small step today, even if you just take your first step, you're closer today than you were yesterday. And it is really scary. I wrote this somewhere, and I got a lot of people commented, and some people didn't love it, but it's scary to me that I might fail. It is much scarier to me that I could wake up at 60 years old and be like, what if? If I try and I fail, at least I tried. The idea that I could wake up one day and be like, what could have been, what might have been, that's scarier, I think. And I think the moment that we accept that, for me anyway, that's when I was like, well, this is the lesser of two evils. Like, even if I fail, at least I know, you know.
Yeah, and I've said that a lot, and like I've been saying too, is there are people watching that can vouch for me with this. Like, I have always said, I don't want to wake up at 80 years old and say, man, I really wish I would have done that when I was younger, or I really wish I would have done that anytime.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I might not. I'm going to Vegas in a month, and I've been there this will be the 5th time. And I always told myself, like, I'm going to get there. And, you know, like, I'm doing these things. Like, do I need to go back to Vegas? No. But you know what? Like, I don't want to be that, like you said, I don't want to be that person waking up at 60, 70, 80 years old and say, you know, I wish I really would have done this. And that was kind of the driving force to me doing this podcast as well. You know, so, I mean, I can understand where it would be that driving force for you, whether you failed or not. Like you said, you tried.
Yeah.
And you made at least a little bit of an impact. And I think we have, but you've obviously made a bigger impact than we have with writing a book, which I could never do. But as Ethan said, I could barely write. So,
well, I think that's why God gives us all different talents, right? Because the world would be super boring if we were all good at the same stuff, or all bad at the same stuff. We'd all be eating chicken nuggets and plain spaghetti noodles if everybody had my gifts.
They tell me I have a face for radio, so.
You're here on your podcast.
I'm here. Way to sidestep that one. Thanks.
So about this book, yeah,
I expect that.
So if you look at the face in the book, actually, you know.
And you know what's funny is, so on the next book, like, my picture is going on the back of it, and for some reason that weirds me out more than anything else. Like if you go to Amazon and you look up my author profile, there's a photo, and obviously, like, I'm in all of my videos and all of my Facebook posts and everything like that. But for some reason, putting my face on the back of the book is just weird to me. But we don't get to make all the decisions. So
Matt had a really good post here. He said, I'm marrying my what if 2 weeks from tomorrow. I would encourage doing whatever you held back on.
Yes.
That's a good point.
Because here's the thing. There is somebody, and I'm going to go like probably way deeper right now than I don't know how your podcast is intended, but
I told you there's nothing. Just go. Just go.
So I've experienced a lot in my life, and like, even if you just watch the news from like the past month, there have been there are people that there have been car accidents, and people, like, young people have died, right? And this happens all the time. A mom is waking up tomorrow finding out that she has cancer. All of these things are happening every single day. And I feel like it's such a kind of selfish thing for me to say, I have the ability to do this thing that I want to do, but I'm not going to do it because I'm scared. Because there are so many people in the world, whether it be because they live in a country where they don't have rights, so they can't do it, or they have an illness or something. There are so many people that just want so badly to be given the opportunity to do the thing that is in their soul to dream about, the thing that they are dreaming about, but they can't. And like, how selfish of me to be like, I'm afraid people won't like it. Like, when you compare it to that level, it seems really silly, right? And so there's a part of me that feels like I owe it to every person who wants to write a book but can't, or wants to write a song but can't, whatever their dream is. I feel like I owe it to all of those people to do everything that I can to pursue mine, if that makes sense.
Crystal clear.
Yeah. See, I told you, way deep.
And just what I was gonna say too is like, and you're talking about like, you know, going for it and like putting yourself out there is, you know, like this is just random, but like I did start like a TikTok when I started bowling again, right? So I post my videos, this, that, and the other, and that's another thing where I was putting myself out there, and you know, I'm extremely grateful for it too, because I've kind of made connections, and that's another thing too. The connections you make when you put yourself out there kind of really like take your whole like take your life kind of to a next level type of thing, because then you put yourself in different circles, right? And you know, I've made connections with that. Like one of my best friends now in the bowling community, I met through TikTok. He happened to see one of my videos. I happened to see one of his, commented on it, and now we're really good friends because he's also from West Virginia too. So that was another, like, you know, just random happenstance. We ran across each other on that one, and it just shows, like, you know, there is bad stuff out there, like you said, like the comments and there's whatever, but at the same time, like, you can also make connections. And I'm kind of the opposite of you guys, to where like you get nervous when you get like recognized for this, that, and the other. I just take it in stride of like, hey man, like I watch your TikTok. I'm like, that's sweet, dude. What's up? You know,
how
what I mean?
awesome. Yeah.
I don't get nervous. Like
you just said you did.
I try to humble myself, and I think that's kind of where, like, I want people to be excited about the podcast. I want people to be excited about your book. You know, I don't know how. Like I don't. I love that people are watching, and I love that we've had this many people watch so far and comment. And I love when people come up to me and say, hey, how's the podcast going? Or awesome episode, or whatever. And it's not that I don't care. And it's not that I don't want to recognize the fact that somebody's recognized what I have done. So, but it's more of, I don't want it to be the main topic of conversation when I see somebody, if that makes sense. You know, like I want somebody to be happy that they watched, and if I made any kind of impact, which obviously this book has made some kind of impact on, you know, a lot of people. I mean, especially with kids, and I think that's really a great place to start is with, you know, the next generation.
Yeah.
You know, with this book, which is great, and it's just like I said, it's not that I don't care, and it's not that I'm not proud of what we're doing here. I'm very proud of what we're doing here. And I'm very proud of getting guests like Miss Danielle here, who, you know, has been amazing so far. So thank you. It's just, I, when it comes to that stuff, like, I want to talk about it, but I get a little nervous. I do, I'll admit. Going out, you know, money is a big thing. Like, I have a hard time asking for money, even if it's for a great cause, like a softball tournament, you know, to help going toward Autism Speaks, you know, which is very near and dear to my heart. You know, but I have a hard time asking for money. I have a hard time asking for support, because I want to do it on my own. And I don't know how you did yours, Miss Danielle, because I'd be very interested to know. But like, when it comes to the support of something, like, I know it's not going to necessarily be like, oh, Joe Rogan type podcast overnight, or you know, the popularity of, you know what I mean? So, you know,
I need her.
Some people will get that.
Yeah.
You know,
I think a lot of people will get that.
I'm embarrassed that I do. Can I say I'm like,
but like, and that's, to be honest with you, I think that's what gets me more and bothers me more is I can put so much time and effort in, and not to say that that's not genuine, but genuine attempt and feeling and whatever to make this work. And we reach out to 24 people, you know, somebody gets interviewed on the streets of Nashville, and they make, you know, and it's massive now. Like, wow.
Let me ask you this though. Do you think that girl, or any people that this has happened to, do you think that that's what she wanted her life to be? Because she'll never be, I mean, it'll be decades before she's anything other than that. And I don't know about you, but if that were me, like at 20 or 21 years old giving an interview, I would be devastated. I would be mortified. I'd have to like raise money and get plastic surgery and change my face and like never, I would just, if that's what I was known for, right? And so I wonder if maybe there's value, like it does suck, right? When it seems like it happens super quickly for someone who didn't even try. But I think there might be value in like the heart, like the work you're putting in is to make it what you want it to be, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it opens up a lot of doors, right? Like I can only imagine all of the opportunities that she's having, but I also would not want to have to look my daughter in the eye one day and explain to her
like why mom's famous, you know?
What's that mean?
Yeah. Hey mom, what's Haktua?
Yeah. I mean, and also we also, you were saying something earlier, and I think we are so conditioned to be like, we want to be proud of ourselves. Like you were saying, like you're proud of the podcast, but you get a little bit nervous. Like, I wonder if that's because we're so conditioned to be like, if we're too proud of ourselves, if we're like excited and like, hey guys, I have this podcast and it's doing really well, if it might come off as like that you're bragging or you're being conceited or like.
Exactly.
Yeah. When in reality, you're just working really hard and you have been behind the scenes and it's finally paying off and you are excited about it. And I think, yeah, it's a little sad to me because I see it too. Like,
but did you ever feel that way though? Like about your book when you first started writing about it?
Oh yeah. Well, I felt at my book signing. I also had an experience where I was at a pharmacy and a little boy walked up to me and was like, my mommy says you're the unicorn lady. And he was so excited.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
I think I posted about it because I cry a lot. I cry when I'm happy, I'm crying when I'm angry. So I went to my car and cried after this experience. But there was also somebody else.
You ever see Danielle in her car? She's either crying or has cried. Because apparently that's where she goes.
100%. Yeah. It's guys. I don't know. But there was a woman that like in the next row that like watched this, and her reaction to it was kind of like, she's like, you're what? And I said, oh, I wrote a book. And she's like, oh, I guess that's cool. And it's just like the way she reacted, I wanted to be like, you don't get to rain on this. You don't get to, no, thank you.
It's a great pep talk for Ethan to write a cookbook, by the way.
Well,
there you go. Yeah.
But to that, I mean, I feel like there's always going to be people that will like, why do you get extra attention that I don't? I feel like there's always that type of person. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like that was kind of be like, why does she get recognized and I'm not recognized for something? That just my opinion. I always have like that negative view about when people have like criticism. It's like, you're just doing that because like you're not the center of this attention here.
I often want to be like, who hurt you?
Yeah, right. So
yeah.
And to the one, like to the girl that, you know, got famous off just like the 10-second clip thing. I also have to, you know, there's always that phenomena of like lightning in a bottle, right? There's always going to just be that type of thing in the world that just catches on for whatever reason. Like, who knows, right? Like who, like what happened with the algorithm to send that to the right person that got then shared out to the other right person that like just down the line, it's just going to happen. Right. So, I'm just one of those, if it happens type of persons. So it's like, sure. It's like a little bit frustrating. Like she had no intention of that being as big as it is, but it's, you know, it happens.
Yeah.
So
I think it's definitely a double-edged sword. Like, with every good, there has to be balance, right? So as wonderful and like famous as she is right now, the other side of it would be like, look what she's famous for, right? And so the same thing for you, for like your podcast or my book, like all of the work we're putting into it, it's really difficult to get up that hill. But when we're at the top, when we finally get there, we're going to be able to look back and be like, look where we came from. You know, we're going to be able to, And I think that's really, and it's probably a reason why you do the podcast, I would imagine. Like, it's really, we don't live in an area where, like if you lived in LA and you became an actor, people would be like, oh, cool, because everybody, you know, like it's a thing, right?
It's another podcast. It's another,
exactly. And they, you know, but like to come from a place where that's not the reality and to go, I want to do something different. Because again, I think it's fantastic that we have people that know what they want to be, or like their dad was a miner, so they're a miner, or their granddad was in the army, so, and their dad was in the army, so they're like just following in those family. I think that's amazing. And I'm, again, really envious of people whose brains work like that. I just am different, right? And so I think for those of us who are different, it's really awesome to see people in our situation or in our area doing something different, because it encourages us, like, well, if they can do something different, maybe I can too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's been kind of my biggest focus with the whole thing too, is, you know, after the first couple of episodes where we've had some amazing guests on here, which has been amazing, which has been great, yourself included. You know, we've had our Abby Beemans, we've had, you know, we've had the family of Trent from, if you've ever get a chance,
I watched that one
out
today, actually.
It was so much fun to talk to Trent for a few seconds. And, you know, like I said, autism being near and dear to me, and to kind of learn, like I've learned so much even having the podcast, which has been really great too, you know, and having our guests like Lee Meltzer, and, you know, yourself, like I said, included, and TJ and Matt Miller, who, by the way, you got to know Matt Miller. Everybody knows Matt Miller.
There are like 5 Matt Millers that went to Frankfurt.
that is a fair statement. So I call him older Matt Miller. He'll probably hate me for calling him older Matt Miller, but he's the teacher Matt Miller. You know, but it's baseball coach, that too. But yeah, like you're right. It's kind of out of the norm for our area, and, you know, I don't know anybody in our area that. I know some that have a podcast. I know one group that has a podcast. I don't know anybody that's written a book. So
yeah, I don't either. And I think I didn't really plan for like people to love it. I guess like I kind of was just, I thought I'll do this thing. I've always wanted to do it. I'll do it, like, you know, I'll do it for my daughter. And a lot of things I do are because like I consider how my daughter will see it, right? Or like the lesson that she's learning. And I know I mentioned it earlier, but the way that the community has just like really been so supportive. And I don't know if I told you this or not, but I partnered with a like a fundraising organization. So in my mind, I would love, and maybe not if I were a unicorn, because it's not educational, I get that. But like I would love to see my books in schools. Like I donated some copies to the school that my daughter goes to, and the way that she reacted when she came home and was like, so and so in my class had my book. Like they had it and they said it was theirs to borrow, and they took it home, and it was like she was just like confused but also really proud, like that's my mommy's book. And so I am partnered with this organization that collects sneakers, so tennis shoes. And what you do is like my goal for it, so this is, I'm just kind of sharing my plan, is to like potentially work with, let's say, a kindergarten class or first grade class in a school system, and say, do like a shoe drive, right? Like put out some flyers to the kids in the school or whatever, and say, every kid, if you have used tennis shoes, bring them in, donate them in. And then what happens is this company, they clean them up, they buy them back from you, and they either recycle them, they give them to homeless shelters, they send them to job centers where people like need shoes and things like that. And then with the money that I get from them buying the shoes back, I would then donate books for like an entire kindergarten class or an entire first grade class. Or and so in my grand scheme of things, it would be kind of getting a broader reach of encouraging, showing kids that people from like our local children, right? Showing the local students that you can do something different. You can, you know, I don't know.
So I guess I need to add humanitarian to the list of the things that, like, author and marketing consultant, and now humanitarian. You know,
well, I don't know. Yeah, as long as I don't have to touch any bugs, I'm good.
Gotcha. So, Miss Danielle, I don't know about you, E. I mean, I know we're coming up on an hour and 40 minutes. All I really wanted to say or what else I want to say was, because I do want to get to that whole twin thing real quick, because I know Alicia's been watching, and knowing her at almost 9:30, she's probably ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, because she's gonna kill me for this, but she's old like I am. You know, she just turned 39 the other day, so happy belated birthday again.
Happy birthday! And if I could reach through this camera for you, Alicia, and knock him upside the head, I would.
Yeah, you used the wrong verbiage there, my man.
Yeah, well, you know, it is what it is. We're aging gracefully, is what we're doing.
Yes. Yeah.
See, believe me, it's not my first go around a rodeo with, you know, taking my foot out of my mouth. So, but anyway, so, you know, I know I definitely want to get to her, because I know she kind of caught it the last bit of it when we were talking about it. But obviously, main focus is your book. So, for those who don't know, Miss Danielle, where can anybody who wants to get If I Were a Unicorn, and she did just say, haha, or LOL, yeah, you just dug your own grave, bro.
Can't help you out here.
You're on your own on that one, big guy.
It is what it is. I'm sure I've said worse to her, so I'm okay.
I don't. You know, you're live on a podcast. I don't know if I would admit that.
Yeah, you're probably right. Anyway, I hate when people are right. Anyway, so yeah, about that.
Where can you get the book?
Yes, where can you get the book? What does it cost? And go.
Yeah, so you can get it on Amazon. And if you get the book and you like the book, I always ask, like you said, I hate asking for money. I hate asking for people to review the book, but it does help. It does help with like the algorithm on Amazon if people review it, and review it honestly, right? If there's something that you don't like about the book, be honest. But so you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it on Barnes & Noble online. So it's not in the physical stores yet, but it is online. And it's $11.99 on Amazon. And I have people ask if I'll sign the book, which is, I still can't wrap my head around the fact that that's a thing. But yes, I will always sign a book if somebody wants to. I try to keep copies on hand at my house. So if someone, instead of ordering it off of Amazon and then sending it to me and then I sign it and send it back, if someone reaches out to me directly, then I can, write like a personalized note, like Dear Ella, et cetera, and sign it and send it back to them. So that's an option too. Yeah.
Do you have any signings coming up or scheduled?
No, I don't. And I need to, which I have been talking to a couple of places. We just haven't put anything in motion yet. I think I've been really looking forward to getting the next book out. Something I didn't mention about the next book is when we release it, there will be an accompanying coloring book with it. So like the illustrations, and we're looking at doing like a coloring contest, because part of the dinosaur book involves like imagining what color a dinosaur might be. Will you swim? Will you fly? Will you be on land? And so the kids will get to create their own dinosaur in the back of it. So doing like a little coloring contest. But so when that comes out, we'll also drop a coloring book for If I Were a Unicorn. So
and Field, she said kids, so you're not eligible for the contest.
I could do an adult. I think I could do an adult version. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's exciting.
I buy as many tickets as I can for that. Like, I want this.
I want this. My daughter knows the story. When I was like 6, I don't know, my mom can tell you, older. This will date me. This will show my age because it was at a video store.
I'm older.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're not much older than me, by the way. I think like we barely missed each other in high school, I think.
Okay. So I graduated high school in 2006.
Yeah, that's when I started high school.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I entered a coloring contest at this. He's like, don't talk about age. Don't talk about. And this is probably when my mom was like, this one's a little bit different, because we were supposed to color Barney. And apparently, like, my brother and sister did a really great job coloring Barney. And I decided that Barney didn't need to be like purple and green. Like, I just did my own. And I guess I like won this little contest. And my brother will still tell you that was like a brick being laid in my it's okay to be different. I'm going to do things my own way kind of thing. So I don't know. I think maybe that's what inspired me to be like, maybe we'll do a color, let's encourage other kids. Like, let's show them that, it's fun to do things differently. And yeah.
So yeah, she, and actually you say that you started high school when she graduated. Mm-hmm. Actually, I believe Danielle would have started high school when I graduated. So.
And listen, I'm so bad. I don't know if it's because I moved a lot. I would like to say that's I'm so terrible at remembering people, like names. And my brother is the opposite. My brother can tell you like what someone was wearing when he met them in like 2000. And I'm like, who, where, or are you sure I was there? And he'll say, yeah, you did this, or you. I don't. So I always like tell people, please don't take it personally that I don't remember. I don't remember anybody. I don't. Yeah, it's again, not a thing I'm good at.
Well, I will say, concluding a talk about the book, thank you so much, Miss Danielle, for talking about it, coming on, getting awareness out for those who may not know that, there was a book out there from someone who grew up in this area and, now, still technically lives in said area, just a little bit further of a drive south into Grant County. But thank you so very much for sitting and giving a chance to sit and talk about it with us and, being on the podcast. So if anybody, of course, wants to continue to watch, we're going to talk a little bit more about the whole twin and triplet thing. If you're interested in that, if not, thank you guys very much for watching.
Thanks,
and, discussing and, getting me in trouble. Maybe I did a little bit myself, but
there's no we about that, by the way.
I'm trying to play it off just a little bit.
There's no we in that.
I don't like to take a lot of the blame.
That's the royal we.
Yeah. I don't take the blame a lot on things, but anyway.
So I just did want to say it's like one other thing though about the book that I just think whenever you were saying like how like the feedback really gets like it gets you emotional because like it's like all the cool things. I think it is awesome that like and you kind of brought it up that like your book is probably a kid's favorite book. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To imagine that, right? Is like your book is like this kid's favorite something, right? I think that's awesome. And I think that you're providing something very, very cool for kids. And again, just congratulations on that. Like, I know Fields has already said, I wanted to put my piece in there. And I think it's awesome that you're providing that and that you're giving kids the favorite of something. And especially something as cool as like reading and stuff like that. And something very important and getting them involved in that world. So again, I'll say thank you for that. And also like, congratulations. And you deserve all that because of the hard work you've put in.
Yeah. Well, I thank you so much, truly. And thank you for having me. It's been super cool. And one day maybe I'll have like 20 books in the series and I'll be a famous author and you guys can be like, we were her first podcast.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah. But the idea that I wrote something that like there's a little kid and this is their favorite book is hands down the coolest thing for me. Like that is
That's awesome.
Speaking of children, of course, doing the exact opposite of what I told him not to do again. So, but yeah, I'm super proud of your kid. It's awesome that you are able to, as Ethan said, provide something to kids in the area and to have something like I'm sitting here thinking as he's saying it, like if somebody come up to me and said, "Oh, I love your book," or my what was it? Your daughter said that one of her classmates has your book. Like, that would just make my heart melt. Yeah. Like, that's awesome.
You would go to your car and cry too, Ryan. I'm telling you, you would.
Shit, I'd cry right there. Like, I'm not even gonna lie.
And I'm not like, people who can cry like discreetly and you can't tell, like Rachel McAdams in every movie she's in. I don't cry.
That's like, a good point. That's a good point.
My face starts to swell and my nose, I look like Rudolph. Like, there's no hiding it when I start to cry. And I'm sure these kids are like, Mommy, what's this weird lady doing? Like, because I'm just like, oh, thank you so much. Yeah.
People are just trying to get groceries. They're passing you in the parking lot. You're in there.
You're like, Mommy, I didn't like this, Mommy.
As you said earlier, these people are watching you in your car. Like, who hurt you? Like,
yeah.
Like, what is this lady's problem? She's crying in her car by herself.
I remember one time somebody sent me a video of her daughter reading the book, and I started crying. And Ella goes, she's like, Mommy, isn't that a good thing? Like, isn't it? I thought we wanted people to read the book. I'm like, yeah.
Don't be surprised if there's little like liquor bottles or something on your windshield. But like, you know what? You deserve this. Just have a drink. Yeah. So, but again, Danielle, very proud of you.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm super happy that you're successful with this book, and I look forward to the next one and hope it's even more, if not even more successful than the unicorn book and the whole the whole, I don't want to say trilogy, but there's the whole
series.
Series. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. The whole series that you have, and just going forward, not only the book, but in life in general too, from even your, I know this is more of like a side hustle because you have your marketing consultant stuff and all. So
for now.
Well, yes, for now, actually, great way to look at it.
That's the dream.
This next book comes out. It's over. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That is going to be the one.
Yeah. Well, I told you I had to redo my author Facebook page. So anyone who wants to follow it, I have to get to a certain number of followers, as you know, for like a business page to be legitimized and all that kind of stuff. But maybe I'll release the dinosaur book and it'll go viral on TikTok or something.
Of course, you need help, buddy. I think it's time for you to go night-night. Mommy's watching this, so she's going to see you up still, and she's not going to be happy. Anyway, so now we're in overtime, I think.
Yeah. Some twin questions.
Absolutely. So if you're still there, Leash, obviously comment, and don't notice that our son is still awake and not in bed at 9:30, which he should have been in bed about an hour ago. But anyway,
I went ahead and gave you a follow on your author page, by the way.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So,
that's kind of a nightmare having to start all over.
So like I said, she is a identical twin, and look what Mommy said. Hi, Cam.
Hi.
You say hi, Mommy.
Mommy.
That's Mommy. Anyway. So she is an identical twin. Growing up, of course, her pictures with her twin sister, you could not tell a difference. Like they were the same person. Now they are, obviously they are their own people, have their own lives, and you can tell a difference. And from what I noticed, like I said, just kind of like looking at Facebook and stuff, seeing your brother, I could definitely see a little bit of a resemblance between the two of you. I did not see your sister, Tamara, was it?
Mm-hmm. Tamara, yeah. Mm-hmm. I think she keeps a low profile on Facebook. So yeah, she doesn't have, there aren't many pictures, I don't think.
Gotcha. So for her sake, obviously, well, Alicia's sake, I mean, wanting to talk about being a twin or a triplet, like what was it that really kind of separated you three? Was it just your personalities? Was it, just you guys? What was it that separated you guys, even though you guys have that same, DNA,
Yeah, it would be really, really interesting. I've always been really interested in those like nature versus nurture studies, where they have like the identical twins who are separated at birth and they were raised in completely different environments. And then they meet, 50 years later and they have the same job and their spouses look the same. And like, I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's really interesting how our DNA kind of can shape that. I think, first of all, the fact that we are fraternal, so 3 separate eggs, meaning we are 3 separate individual people, even in terms of DNA, probably has a lot to do with it. I think I just really I think I have to credit my mom for really encouraging us to be our own people. Because even when we are, I think I said it before, like when you're the same age and you live in a small town, there aren't a whole lot of opportunities. So when you're competing for something, you're competing against like your triplet or your twin or, and I think probably I would imagine for identical siblings, it would be even more difficult. Because when you let's say if my sister won something that I didn't win, I wouldn't like, I could, that we are different enough that I could be like, okay, this is why. If we looked the same, I think it would be really difficult if I was identical, like if we were identical, to accept a loss, right? Because I'd be like, we're the same. Why, you know? So yeah, I think we just have really, all three of us, we just have really different personalities altogether.
So here's what Alicia had said. My sister and I had the same major, took the exact same classes at the same time, and graduated 0.02 point GPA difference. They were very competitive.
Yeah. So can I ask, are you close? Like, were you competitive and it caused, like, it made it difficult to be close? Or were you competitive, but that's just the way that it was? And like, at the end of the day, you guys love each other. And
I obviously I can't speak on it, but I can tell you from what I've heard, and thank you, E. Appreciate that, buddy. I would have gotten there, but
I don't think so.
Just,
that's what I'm here for.
I can't read. So yeah, she said not difficult at all, but it kept us motivated. So yeah. I noticed, whether they want to believe me or not, kind of from a distance, I noticed, the competitiveness, even if they weren't trying to show it, it was there. Something that you were asked earlier from Ethan was, do you have that twin triplet feeling? I don't know if she did. I think they did. And I think she actually has like times where it happened. So Alicia, obviously you're watching. Did you and Stacy have that feeling of, like if you didn't feel good, she didn't feel good type of situation? I think she did, but I don't want to speak on it. She said, my sister was the one that wanted to shine and I let her.
Yeah. And so I think that's really interesting, because I would imagine that when you grow up and there's just built-in competition, right? Like, again, even if you take out, like, let's not even talk about academics or sports or anything like that. Like, if you're from a small town and there are, let's say, 100 kids, that I think that's judging it, in your graduating class, like, and you guys look alike, you're going to have crushes on the same boys, right? Or you're going to be fighting for like the same friends. And I think when you become a teenager, there's this need for autonomy. Like you need to like prove, at least for me, I needed to prove that I could do it, not as one of the triplets, but like as myself. And I think when you have a sibling the same age as you, or like, it's kind of just there's an innate sense of competition. Like, even if you're not trying to win a trophy, you're trying to make a friend, or you're trying to do well in class, and I wonder if, because I think Alicia said, you said your sister was the one who wanted to shine and you let her. If one of the siblings is not like, you know what, I'm not really for the spotlight, you can have it, then I think there's just a natural thing where you have to compete with each other, even if it's not like a malicious competition. It's just the reality of being
Yeah, she said when I had knee surgery, she was in show choir dancing and her knee went out.
See, I don't know if it's scientific, I don't know if it's spiritual, I don't know if it's like all in our head, I don't know, but I have some crazy things like that with my brother that we've experienced. Like,
and she also did say that they never dated the same guy, #twin rules. But funny story from my understanding is they dated twins at the same time.
So I have cousins, like, I guess a set of twins who married, like identical twins who married a set of identical twins. Yeah, I don't. People would ask like growing up if I dated the same person as my, because we're the same age, and I feel bad for my brother. Can you imagine like all of your friends just wanting to date your sister? Like, you know what I mean? Like he had two of them, like, so I feel like that probably had to be kind of crappy for him. But yeah, I think there's an unspoken rule among, I think all sisters, right? I don't know if this is a thing, but like it would be weird to date someone my sister dated, even if we weren't the same age. I think that would be strange.
Once again,
in my mind, that's a rule. In my mind, that's just the way that it is, but I don't know.
And it's kind of funny. And I told you the other day, like I'm an open book. Like I don't care sometimes. A lot of times I don't care. But there may be a guy on this podcast that dated sisters at one time. Not at one time, but at different times.
See,
they were not. They were not twins, but I have dated sisters before.
So I obviously didn't grow up with siblings but some of my teammates in summer baseball, I had a set of twin teammates and they were identical twins. And they had one thing that did differentiate them, which I think helped them out. One was left-handed, one was right-handed. So yeah, so like one was the lefty, one was the righty, right? That's how they were like differentiated. So they weren't like I couldn't imagine if they were like the same, because they played different positions too. So that helped them out, right?
Yeah.
So like one pitched and the other one played like third base, and it was really cool. But to hear them bicker back and forth was some of the best comedy you'll ever hear in your entire life.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It says like one was a pitcher, right? And the other one was a third baseman responsible for catching. If one missed the ball or one couldn't get to it, the bouncing back and forth of like, you should have caught that. Hey, you should have made a better pitch, or hey, you should have done that. And it extended to Call of Duty as well. Like, and it was amazing. Just like the banter back and forth was awesome.
I wonder if, as an only child, did you look at that? Were you ever like, man, I wish I had that? Or were you like, these kids are weird? Like,
so like I grew up in a family where I was actually, my aunt babysat me, and she had two sons, which were relatively the same age as me. I mean, they were in high school whenever I was in like grade school and stuff like that, but they were basically my big brothers at that point. So, and because I was there like every day after school, so I still kind of got that like sibling type of like looking up to them type of thing. But I also got my alone time back when I came back to my parents' house. So I felt like I had the best of both worlds in that sense.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Alicia said my sister and I didn't talk till we were 3 because the doctor told my mom we were talking to each other. Were you and your siblings like that?
No, I don't think so. My brother, I won't use the phrase the teacher used, but my brother apparently talked a lot. Like in school, they were like, his mouth doesn't stop running, basically. And so I obviously am like that a lot too. I think my sister was probably quieter. I have heard of twins who have their own, like who develop their own language, like who just have like their own shorthand, and like don't have the need really to talk to. And I wonder how that must be like because I went to college with a set of twins who, like in college, they still dressed the same. Like they were roommates and they had the same major and they still dressed the same. And I wonder what it's like when it's time for you to go out into the world. Like, do you live together the rest of your lives? Do you have houses next to each other? Like, how difficult is it to finally like separate?
I think there's definitely still some that definitely do that, because like they can kind of find each other as like safety blankets type of things. Like as long as I have like this person with me, I'll be awesome, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
But it can also lead to like, I feel like a lot of culture shock almost.
Yeah, my concern is always like if you're that dependent, and again, not to like bash on that type of relationship, because I think that to be that close would be amazing, right? It's something that we probably can't fathom. But if you only have one person in the world, if they are your whole world and something happens to them, how do you function beyond that? Or how do you like have a job and be successful? Do you have dreams, or do we have dreams, right?
Yeah.
Like do I want to be a writer, or do we want to, I don't know. Interesting.
And then there's also that that dynamic of like, what if one twin is ready to move to the next step and the other one isn't, that type of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alicia, my sister
Hey,
moved
there you
away and
go.
got married.
Yeah.
That's what I said, and she struggled big time.
Yeah.
And that is, and like I said, now obviously Alicia and I were married for basically 12, almost 13 years, and some people don't know what's going on. I don't really talk too much about my personal life about that, but so I obviously I know her. So I've heard the stories. I've been there for whatever it may be, and now to be able to ask you about this, like it just kind of helping her out, I guess. But to kind of compare and contrast, but like she said, for the first time in my life, my name wasn't Twin, and whenever she moved away, and like with you three. With Alicia, and I'm sure she could type this in there, but when she I'm trying to think of how she worded it. When her sister moved away, obviously, like she said, she wasn't the twin. Alicia, you can kind of help me out with this. Like there was this feeling that she kind of lost herself because I remember what it was. Like growing up in high school, in middle school, high school, even at a younger age, like did you guys feel like you always had the three of you? Like you guys were best friends, and did that make it difficult for you to make friends outside of you three? Because you kind of knew like you guys always had each other. Like you didn't have to make friends. You guys always had the other two. Like is that how you guys kind of worked, or was it just easy for you guys to make friends outside of the three of you?
Well, I think there is also a big difference between having triplets and twins, because with twins you're together, and with triplets there's always someone out, right? Like it's not an even number. And so I think we probably had a unique experience also in moving so much, and because our personalities were different. If one of us was more outgoing than the other and the other one struggled, I don't want to say like contentious, but it's probably difficult, right? To see or like to want to be really good at something and your sibling is really good at it, and feeling that constant competition. I think the one nice thing is we definitely always had each other. I think for whatever reason, and I can't speak for both of them, but based on my experience, I think we were always the triplets, and it was always so weird when we went to a new school and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, you're triplets," and we would be like, "Yeah, I don't like." Okay, that we
Let's start this book over again.
Yeah, exactly, and like it never like my brain never accepted the fact that it was strange that like I was a triplet until I was in college, and one of the guys I worked with had a 12-year-old sister, and I was like, that's so weird. And he goes, no, the fact that your siblings are the same age as you, that's weird.
And this is what I was trying to get to, is Alicia said, I never had to make friends because I always had my sister. As an adult, I really don't know how to make friends.
Yeah. And so I think for us, if we had not grown up moving all the time, that may have been the way that we were. It may have been that we were just together all the time. But because the environment that we lived in forced us to go outside of our comfort zone, it made each of us learn how to make friends differently. And I'm sure that it obviously had a huge impact on who I became and my personality. And I'm sure it did for my brother and sister as well. It is nice. So I also had this experience when I was an adult. I was probably 25, maybe. Oh, okay.
Shannon
Oh,
Whitten.
Shannon, I totally forgot. Shannon's also a twin. Yeah. But you guys, you're not, she has a brother. And so then they don't look anything alike. I don't think you do. And I've known you for a long time. What was it? I was saying something. I lost my train of thought. Oh, I was saying about making friends. I think number one, I think it's nice to know that no matter what, like no matter how long you've gone without talking, you can still call, like I still have them, right? They still have me. We're still like, we're always going to be there. But I think I had this experience when I was in a job. I was like 25. I had a job and it was my birthday and they brought a birthday cake out. And I have the picture somewhere. And I read the birthday cake and it said like, happy birthday, Danielle. And instead of like smiling, I was like, I looked at the cake. I'm like, what? Because it was the first time that like I'd had a, like not a party, but like a celebration with other people. And it wasn't like happy birthday triplets, you know, it was like, and so I'm not even smiling in the picture. I'm just like, yeah. I think that benefited us. I think that our growing up and moving so much forced us to learn how to make friends on our own. Yeah. And also I think, like Alicia was saying, that she struggled. So I think that if you go through your whole life being the twins, then when that's your identity, right? When you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, you're the twins, right? Everything about you is, especially at that young age, in my experience, we internalize what the world tells us, right? So if your teachers say, oh, you're so smart, in your mind, you're like, oh, I'm smart. If your teachers say you're a bad kid, you go like, oh, I'm a bad kid. So if your whole life, you're just like the twins, then you don't have any identity apart from being the twins. And so when that separation comes, I can imagine it's, really difficult to be like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who
So
am
she said the birthday song for you three, did everyone scramble your names? And of course your mom comments, we sang it 3 times.
We did sing it 3 times. Well, I think if I remember, and like I said, my mom did this thing where she would make us each like this tiny, it was like a I don't know how to, like a mound, and she'd put like a Barbie doll on top of it so that the cake would be her dress. And so like that was my cake, and it was the greatest thing because I didn't have to share it. It was like the only thing I didn't have to share was this cake. And so for me, that was really, really special. And I know I've said it a bunch, but I'm super grateful that she was always like really encouraging of us to like be our own people. And yeah, I don't know. It's got to be hard raising multiples.
Well, and like you were saying about like you kind of internalize like things that people say. That's, you mean, coming because I picked up that you got a degree in psych. That's self-fulfilling prophecy. So and there are some people though that like they'll either internalize that or they'll absolutely reject that, right? Like and I think that can go the way with twins too, because like you can get to a point where like you're just sick of that moniker, and it's like I am done with this. Like please let us move on from this type of situation.
And I think that may be what my siblings and I did, not in like a negative way, but like as we got move after move after move, it gets really old. Every single person being like, oh my gosh, you're the triplets. So it was almost like we would go somewhere and we would like consciously be like, I'm on my own, right? You know what I mean? Like I'm going to make my own friends and I'm going to do my own thing because of that need to be like, we are different people. And, but yeah, I can't imagine growing up with no siblings. That's wild. Like, I think that would be cool.
He got all the attention.
It happened. Yeah, for better or for worse. I couldn't blame anybody else for anything that got broken.
That's
so think
true.
about that.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah. There's no
And the only thing I had was my little brother, who is 4 years younger than me, his birthday is the day after mine.
Oh.
So like mine's November 6th, his is November 7th. Actually, the 3 of us, I have a younger sister and a younger brother, and we are basically 11 days apart. So having a November, yeah, I guess you could consider it October, but definitely November birthday. You go back 9 months, you're on Valentine's Day, and of course, we used to always give my mom just the hardest time about that. Like,
Parents are a time crunch, my man.
Yeah, I was like, hey.
On Valentine's Day, you're like, I know.
Oh yeah,
Now,
my mom made a comment that I won't say on here, but and it was always funny. But But anyway, go on.
Did your mom ever have like combined parties for you guys because your birthdays were close to each other?
Was a bear shit in the woods? Yeah, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It was always, and I can remember this. Very, very clearly. Is having birthday cake at my grandmother's, and one side it said "Happy Birthday, Ryan and Danielle," and of course, my side had the little wrestling action figures on the corner, and then his had little monster trucks, and that's what we did. We had one big birthday party.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
But like obviously my sister had her own because she was 11 days. So like mine is November 6th of 84. Hers is October 27th of 86.
I wasn't gonna say that out loud. I wasn't gonna say.
Hey, it is what it is.
No.
Yeah, he's over here like, yeah, we had to do this, I had to do that. Meanwhile, you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah,
I can't imagine what that feels like, Ryan. Yeah. You know, it's
all right. Good night, everybody. Have a great night.
When my daughter, so I had a C-section with my daughter, and when we were scheduling her like delivery, and if Shannon's still on here, she kind of, so oddly enough, we went to college, we lived together, we worked together in college, and then we found out we were pregnant like on the same day. Like I messaged her and I said, I have to tell you something, but you can't tell anyone. And she was like, okay, but I have to tell you something and you can't tell anyone. So our girls were born, same hospital, same doctor, one day apart. But when we were scheduling it, my daughter was born on October 30th. And they were like, do you want her to be a Halloween baby? That would be awesome. And I was like, no, I don't want her to share her birthday with anything. I want her to have a day that's just hers. And Shannon had, I wish I couldn't muster any sympathy. Shannon has another brother whose birthday is Halloween. And so for like the same reason, she made a different decision. She was like, oh, it would be cool if they shared a birthday. So the girls are like, I don't know, 15 hours apart or something. But yeah, I consciously was like, no, I want her to have her own day that she doesn't have to share with anything. So we still piggyback. What's that?
I'm sure they're gonna get over the getting asked like, "Hey, were you dressing up for your birthday this year?" Like, yeah. Okay.
Well, I will tell you. So one year, she was like 4 maybe, and her birthday like fell on the Friday before Halloween, and she was at like daycare, and they were so kind because it was like when COVID was a big thing, and they were like, we don't want anybody to have parties because kids can't get together outside of school. So the school let me bring in cupcakes, like send in cupcakes for like the kids and stuff. And Ella full on thought that they had a whole party just for her at school. Like all the kids dressed up, they all had cupcakes, and she full on believed that was her birthday party. And I was here for it because it's a lot. So
and you told her absolutely they did.
I said, yes, ma'am. Look how many people love you. Look at all your friends. Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Obviously being in your, we'll say in your 30s, you know, I don't want, I've already learned my lesson with the age thing from earlier. Given you're in your 30s and a triplet, would you say, and Shannon actually, so far, Margot loves sharing a birthday with Uncle Jeff, but he is a lot older, so she is still the center of attention and loves it.
Yep.
So obviously being a triplet, and Shannon, feel free to comment on this as well. If you could change not being a triplet, would you?
No, I don't. And as cheesy as this sounds, I think that we are, who we are now is very much dependent on what we experience in life, and the decisions we make, the mistakes we make, the lessons we learn. And I think if I hadn't been a triplet, I don't know, you know, what I would be like if I didn't have that like the constant competition or the constant camaraderie, or because I do have this weirdly deep and very strong need to like for autonomy. Like I said before, like I crave my alone time. And I think it's one of the reasons why I am really driven to do things where I love to be around people. But I also, I don't know how to explain. Like I want to create something by myself and see if it succeeds. And I don't know if I would be like that. You know what I mean? If I hadn't had to share everything. So no, I wouldn't. Plus, I have really cool siblings. So
I mean, you could have cool siblings, but
that's true. Yeah.
So let me ask you this though. So you say you crave your alone time now.
Mm-hmm.
Was it weird to have alone time when you first got it?
Oh yeah. I have this really, so I kind of gloss over this part, but when I left high school, I didn't go straight to West Lib. I went to Alderson Broaddus for a semester.
Hey.
Yeah. And I hated it so much.
Yeah. Join the
club. Yeah. I wasn't made for that. I wasn't born into the right tax bracket to
how's
go to
school. How's that school doing now?
80% of my student loan debt is from Alderson Broaddus.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole, I have like a really weird story about leaving there. But anyway, I was miserable.
I think since they defaulted, I shouldn't have to pay that.
You shouldn't. Yeah. that's a whole other podcast that will get you put on a whole other like series of For You pages.
Yeah, for sure.
But so I have memories of being there and being like, what do I do? You know what I mean? Like realizing that I could choose to go like to a party or wherever I wanted to go. And I didn't have to like, there was nobody going with me. Like the first time that I went somewhere by myself. And when I went to West Lib, it was a very conscious decision to go away where I didn't know anybody. Because I kind of felt myself falling into that, like I need, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know how to do things on my own. So I went 4 hours away where I didn't know anybody and I started over. And for me, like I said, that was a really conscious thing where like I kind of had to force myself to figure out like who's Danielle and what does she want to do. And, you know, because even in school, like when you're sharing like the focus of like, what does my brother want to do? What does my sister want to do? You're sharing like the attention of that, right? And so just learning to do everything by yourself, or like sleeping in my brother and sister and I didn't always share a room. My sister and I shared a room when we were little. But like when we were older, like I struggled if I got scared. So if my brother is watching this, we watched The Sixth Sense. Okay. And that movie scared. I slept in my brother's room for weeks after that. I was like, I can't be by myself. I'm terrified.
You gotta see dead people. It's weird.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think just like those little things, like not having like a person there if you get scared, or like not having, you know, like Alicia said, she and her sister have that language. There's like when my brother and I would fight when we were in high school, he would like put candy under my door as like chocolate, like as an I'm sorry. And we never had to be like, I'm sorry, that was crappy of me, or like forgive me. It was just like a small gesture, and then we knew we were good. And so when you have that and then you go out and you meet somebody, you don't have that. Like you have to build that. It's not just like an innate thing. That's also pretty different.
And I think too, like that's, so I've always been very comfortable like having my alone time, right? Like it doesn't bother me or whatever. But I do think also like me having that experience, like having sort of older siblings too, kind of gave me that type of, it kind of like, I don't know how to say it. Like it kind of filled that need for like, interactions, right? Of people like my similar age group. So then like when I went to college or everything like that, it still took me time to open up, because I was, you know, I wasn't always like surrounded by, you know, siblings, but I was eventually able to kind of get into that, you know, where you make friends, this, that, and the other. And I think early on too, where I didn't have the siblings at home. That's why I always liked having like really good friends. Like I kind of, whenever I get like a good friend, I kind of like hold on to that good friend type of thing. And I think that's yeah. So like when Fields kind of like came into to my friend group, he was already a part of like the group that I was a part of, but like we weren't like friends or whatever. So when he comes into the friend group, me and him kind of hit it off. So like automatically he's one of my good friends, right? So I'm very good at making close friends. I think that's my thing too.
Okay.
And I think that's the difference, where I grew up in the same town, but also as an only child, I'm very good at making very close friends. If I connect with somebody. So I think that's one of the biggest differences there.
Yeah, that's so neat. I'm envious of that. Like I said, it took me a little while to. I don't think making friends was like close friends was the difficulty. It was like letting people in, right? Because when you know you're going to move in a year, there's like a guard, you know. And when I was growing up, this again will age me. The internet wasn't a thing until I was like a little older. So I still had friends that I wrote letters to. You know what I mean? Like that was a thing, and I still have in a box like letters that I would send to friends and things like that. And that was just normal to me. And then I would like go to school and people would be like, what do you mean that you got a letter? Like I've never written a letter to anybody in my life. And, you know, so I think I had to
probably not in cursive either.
No, right? Oh, don't get me started.
MSN Instant Messenger was a game changer.
Yeah, right? Oh, man.
You still remember the sound of AOL opening up the door and then closing.
See, I wasn't like, I don't know, like Danielle, I don't know if it was still the same, like whenever you were, you know, and because we're close to the same age. MSN was our thing. Like, AOL wasn't what MSN was our area.
I think I was in between you two, right? Because AIM was like a thing, and then MSN.
AIM for me growing up.
So I'm right in between, like, and you would put like your status as like some obscure song lyric.
Your screen name would be like a song lyric, and then that kind of parlayed into MySpace. So like your MySpace header was like whatever song you were listening to at that point.
Do you remember that on like? We literally had a social media platform where we ranked our friends. Like,
yes,
you know what I mean? Like today, that would never happen. That would be.
T-Mobile used to do it as well. Like you used to have like your top 5.
Oh, that's right.
People you call or whatever, and
that was a big thing, man. That was a big thing. MySpace.
For you young folks that are still watching, if you are watching now, you couldn't call for free till after 9 o'clock with your cell phone back in the day. So,
well, and here's the thing about triplets. We had. Do you remember like the Nokia? That's a brick phone that like it was like a blue Nokia, and we all 3 had to share it. And like to get you had to type like AAA, 111 555. Yeah.
T9.
So I feel like if I wasn't a triplet, maybe I would have gotten my own phone. Like I don't.
Potentially,
yeah.
But it's like, and again, we're getting into like nostalgia now, which is kind of cool. Like I always love talking about. We had a whole episode about it, and I think we need to bring that episode back because I think more people will watch it now.
Oh, but, I think so too.
No, and I was just like in my head, I was thinking of like the different like MySpace headers that people had. Like after there was like a breakup, it was like the All American Rejects. When you see my face, hope it gives you hell.
By the way, it was the unpopular opinion, is what it was. Was the episode that we did. I
would watch that episode. That sounds like, but I have a lot of I don't think like my brain.
We should have you on for it for sure. I think,
my brain
doesn't have you on for it. Yes,
and the Christmas movie, Die Hard was not a Christmas movie. That was one of the questions. So I will ask this before I get back to it. Do you put ketchup on eggs?
Oh, no. Why?
I think my answer was it depends.
No.
Like not dippy eggs, obviously.
Maybe we don't want to have her on that.
No, for sure.
You have to have somebody that represents the minority. Yeah.
I'm intrigued to hear your the disposition that you're in with
Well, here's, to be fair, I'm not a huge fan of ketchup. I pretty much just eat ketchup on French fries. So I don't know that I can give you an unbiased,
unpopular.
Right, exactly. No.
My hottest take, or my most unpopular opinion, is I think the Beatles are the most overrated band of all time. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, okay. Before I react, who in your mind takes the place of the Beatles?
I don't think they're the best band to come out of England in general.
So who is? If
Queen.
The Beatles are
Queen.
Okay.
100% Queen.
Yeah.
I will agree with him on that.
And then Led Zeppelin's another band from England that's better than than the Beatles. There's an argument to be made that the Monkees were better than the Beatles. So
I don't I'm not I think the Beatles, we can't accurately, the Beatles have been so commercialized. If we had experienced the Beatles in their time, we might feel differently. But so many Beatles songs have been used in movies and commercials that I think when we hear them, we don't get the same, like, the serotonin or a dopamine, whatever it is in our brains that we do when we hear others, just like other great songs that, how there's that list of, and I just found out about this the other day. There's apparently a list of songs that you can't play in a guitar shop. Like if you go buy a guitar, and so
Stairway to Heaven.
Yes, and I was having this conversation, and
Smoke on Water's probably another one.
Smoke on
the Water, yeah.
And I guessed them. I was like, what has to be this song, and it's like kind of like that. Like those were great songs in their time, but now they just make you want to like take out your brain.
It's because those are the songs that everybody first learns how to play on the guitar, and it's overplayed.
Yeah. So my argument for the Beatles not being the greatest would be that has happened. We've been desensitized. Like if we lived then, maybe we would feel differently.
See, and I don't think they're a bad band. But like I look at it skill wise, like there's nothing they do better than anybody else.
They were just different, I think, like, at the time.
Like Freddie Mercury might be the greatest frontman of all time. Right? He is an established. His voice was amazing. He can do anything and everything with his voice. Yeah. He was great, and I think there's nobody in the Beatles that separates himself above anybody. Like Freddie Mercury
voice was uniquely amazing.
Right.
That's what makes his voice is one. We're how many decades past that prime, and they're still. He's on a list all of his own.
And I think Ethan, I think this is where we get the chance to do the nostalgia episode, but get like 4 different groups of people.
Yeah.
Get your millennials, get your Gen X, and this is where it's going to really come together.
Just get me like an Urban Dictionary that tells me what half of the words they say mean.
I don't think Urban Dictionary is what.
Yeah, maybe don't go to Urban Dictionary.
I don't know.
I don't know. They'll turn anything into a dirty definition.
Yes.
Yeah, as Kevin Hart would say, you get an Urban Dictionary, you're gonna learn today. You're gonna learn today.
Oh, that was easily his best stand-up. But
absolutely, but no, that's my thing about the Beatles is like there's nothing they do skill wise that puts themselves better than any other band. Again, like Led Zeppelin had Robert Plant as their lead singer. I believe that was his name, correct? Yeah, he was an amazing man.
Sorry.
Bless you, by the way.
Thank you.
Queen had Freddie Mercury. Just that type of stuff. So
yeah,
they're a good band, but I don't think they're the greatest band of all time. Like a lot of lists have them up there.
Yeah.
I just think they're the most popular at a time.
Yeah, they did. I think they did something different, at the time. And unfortunately, and I'll say this is probably not a popular opinion. They don't make music like they used to. Just music is not
they don't
the same. And also the thing that makes me sad about the music industry, it's not always the person with the most talent that becomes the most successful. Like if someone is more marketable and I'm really excited to see certain artists that don't like fit the mainstream image of like what an artist should look like, becoming like not necessarily famous, but like you have a lot of artists who played in the background for a long time. Like Chris Stapleton is one of them, who
I was
wrote
just thinking Chris Stapleton.
so many #1 hits for other artists before he became like, you know, just. So that makes me sad about the music industry, because I wish that the talent alone would be the defining factor in like popularity, or, you know.
And the fact that that man's voice didn't hit a microphone until it did is a crime.
Right. And I'm convinced that, like, because he's not what you would imagine. He doesn't look like, I don't know, George.
He looks like one of the Robertsons from Duck Dynasty.
He does. And I'm sure if you went back, like, I'm sure, because he was this talented 5 years, 10 years before he became the Chris Stapleton that we know. I think that probably he didn't look the part, right? And so it took like the popularity of people like the Robertsons, or like people accepting that image as like okay, for him to be like, for the industry to be like, you know what, his talent exceeds the image.
So one thing I have heard about Chris Stapleton, though, is that if you notice on all of his live performances, his wife is on stage with him as a part of their band.
Mm-hmm.
And I have heard that is on purpose, because if you notice his performances, he constantly always looks over at his wife. He has stage fright, and she's his comfort.
I love that.
So I think that could have been a reason why he didn't put himself out there. He was, self-conscious, and until like his wife probably was like, "Listen, your voice is amazing. Let's put this on tape right now." So
And
another artist, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Another artist that just the same path is Hardy as well. I don't know how much you follow country music. He was a writer for Morgan Wallen.
Okay.
So now he has his chance as well to kind of like build his own career, and he's done really well for himself so far. So
I'm really interested in people who. So do you know the song? And we can Google this to make sure that I'm correct. But you know the song. I forget who sang it, and it's a country song about like somebody giving wrong directions and stopping, and there's like a lady with iced tea. Do you know? I don't know if you know what song. Yeah.
Oh, it's oh shoot, hold on. I think the song is called Good Directions.
Good Directions. Okay. Mm-hmm. If I'm correct, and forgive me, I'm gonna get hate for this. So if I'm correct, Luke Bryan wrote that song. And my mind cannot accept that the person that Luke Bryan is now wrote a song that was like, I don't know.
Is it Billy Currington?
Billy Currington. Yes, Billy Currington, yeah. Good Directions. Yep.
Yeah, so that song was, it's not like a lyrical powerhouse, but it's definitely like a country song.
And it was written by Luke Bryan. Yes.
Yeah, and Luke Bryan now, I'm not a huge fan. Sorry. He's just not my brand of country. My brain can't reconcile somebody that wrote like that. So I think it's really interesting when you see a writer who writes something because like when they're writing out of passion, and then what they become once like a management team or a publicist gets a hold of them, and what, you know, they kind of grow to become. Sometimes it's disappointing.
Someone hears them singing down the hallway, like, what the hell is that?
Right? When I heard that, I was like, there's no... But there have been a couple artists I've heard on the radio, like Luke Combs. I remember hearing him on the radio and then seeing him and being like, this is not the image that I had in my head. Yeah.
What's going to be fun is seeing how the country world reacts to Post Malone.
You know, I've heard him sing. Like, he actually can sing.
Yeah, that man's talented for sure.
Yeah. You know, somebody else, I've been writing songs for a long time. I love live music. Like, there's nothing like it. I've seen a lot of live music in my life, and hands down, the most talented musician I've ever seen is Aaron Lewis. He was the lead singer
from Stained.
Mm-hmm. And he did a concert in like Charlestown, I think, several years ago. And so he he like grew up on a farm, lives on a farm, is like a country boy, like the like Webster's dictionary definition of country boy.
Not Urban Dictionary.
No, the actual dictionary. And apparently I saw him do an interview where he said like at that time they were like, you cannot do country music. Like what you've got going on doesn't work for country music. So they gave him a band and he did Stained. And he wrote like Been a While, that song, if I'm correct, was like the highest grossing song of a decade. And I heard him like in this concert, there was like a drunk guy screaming like, sing It's Been a While, like over and over and over again. And he finally stopped and he was like, I'm going to do the song. And he told the story that like there was a concert that he was like, I was feeling it. The crowd was great. We were having a great time. And I didn't do that song. And he's like, at the end of the concert, the only thing people talked about was the fact that I didn't do that song. And he said, imagine writing a song about the worst moment of your entire life and then it being the highest like grossing song of a decade and nobody wanting to hear anything else except that song. Like having to sing the song about the worst moment of your life for like 30 years. I'm like, that would suck.
That's tough.
Yeah, but I'd never considered it before. But he's super talented, like vocally, lyrically. He's definitely underrated in my opinion.
Yeah, it was really cool though because like Post Malone kind of telegraphed his move into country. Because if you look up like some of his older things, he did just I forget whose band he did it with, but he did a couple songs. He did I'm Gonna Miss Her.
Oh, okay.
He did a cover of that, and then he did another cover of a song. I can't remember what the title of it is, but it was like country song, and that's what he grew up with.
Was it the George Strait song you're talking about?
I believe so. Like whoever sang "I'm Gonna Miss Her,"
that was Brad Paisley.
Brad Paisley.
Right? He did that one, and then he did another song too.
He did "Carrying Your Love with Me" by George Strait.
So, and he's also did another one. But anyways. So that's what he grew up with, though. And he grew up in Texas. You know, that's a big, country music haven right there. And I think he even said in an interview before, like, what's your career going to look like in 10 years? And I think, and this was, when White Iverson came out, I think he said, like, I'll probably be doing country music in 10 years.
Yeah. Well,
and I was like, yeah, sure.
I think what's sad is he's doing it in a time, again, nobody come at me with the hate. But like it's an unfortunate time for people in like that genre to cross over because you just had that whatever Beyonce wants to call the album she just released. And you know what I mean? And like so it almost feels like a stunt, like a publicity stunt when in fact it's not. And I feel like it's just an unfortunate time for him to have chosen to do it.
I think what's helping him though is that people can see that his heart's into it. Yeah. It's not a one-off type of thing because he's kind of ingratiated himself into that community. He did the CMA Award performance with Hardy and Morgan Wallen. He was on a tape that did a Joe Diffie's covers and all that type of stuff. So I think that's really helping him. And the song that I couldn't think of was You Can Have the Crown. Let me see who did that one. You Can Have the Crown by Sturgill Simpson. It's an old school country.
Oh, I was thinking for some reason, I don't know if he's done it, but I would like to hear him do a cover of the song Hurt. Who did that? It was originally like a Johnny Cash. He covered it. Johnny Cash covered it. It was originally like a metal, like a Nine Inch Nails.
Nine Inch Nails, yes.
Was it? Yeah. And so Johnny Cash covered it, which is easily one of the best covers in the history of covering music. But I would like to see him do that one.
Yeah, again, I think he's approaching it different than what Beyonce did because people could tell Beyonce was kind of just a one-off type of thing, and it was the country music community can tell when it's going to be a one-off and out. Yeah, because they love their country music, right? So, and I think Post Malone is doing all he can to kind of be like, no, this is me. This is what my heart's into.
Good night, Mom.
Good night. So I do think he's showing like, hey, this is what my heart's into. I do love this music. I do love this genre.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's helping him out. So
Yeah.
I think it's going to be cool. And I can't wait to see the reaction of the people that don't know that he's doing this yet when they finally see him and they see someone covered in tattoos and stuff like that doing country music.
And being good at it Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I want you to know, I think it's official that whether it be next week or 2 weeks from now or whatever, we are to do another unpopular opinion episode.
Yes.
And so Alicia didn't really watch the first, I don't know, couple of episodes that we started doing. And when she watched just that little bit, because we had integrated it into, it wasn't its own episode. It was more of, we did like a sport related portion of the episode. And then we did the unpopular opinion. And she actually loved watching the unpopular opinion. She's like, and the funniest part about that, and it brought up the whole coffee conversation, is Ethan, and this is why I was telling you earlier, Danielle, is Ethan will judge you by the coffee you drink. And I said something. I was like, oh, I drink it the way, I drink it with like not black or whatever. I drink it with creamer. And I was like, I drink it the way it should be drank. And he's like, what, the way God intended it to be is just straight black coffee? And I'm like, yeah, no. So that's why I had to ask about the coffee question.
Yeah. I read once that drinking black coffee is one indicator of being a sociopath. I did read that, but also
call him Cinderella if the shoe fits.
One of many, right? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably
I don't have the whole list. I'm gonna pull it up and like rewatch the podcast.
So I think we'll make a list. Maybe do it next week, and we'll make a list, and join in and comment or whatever, and let us know your unpopular opinions.
All right.
So I don't know about y'all, but this old man's getting tired.
I know.
Longest we've done. I think it's the longest podcast we've done.
Sorry, guys.
No,
sorry about it. It's been awesome.
It has been awesome, and I'm really glad that you joined us. And like I said, we're in like quadruple overtime at this point. We're not just in overtime; we're in like quadruple overtime. So, as always, for the 7 people who are still watching, God bless you all.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I appreciate everybody watching. Thanks to E for, of course, joining us for another week of the Open Fields podcast. And, of course, our guest this week, Miss Danielle Hours. Danielle,
thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you very much. And everybody, have a good night.
Good night.